It narrowly avoided a government shutdown, and that leaves some US analysts of international affairs worried about the trajectory their own nation is on.
There are great concerns around the world about the competence of the United States.
Jim Lindsay is with the New York-based Council on Foreign Relations and says the US will be hard-pressed to lead by example at this week's meetings.
The Biden administration is fond of talking about how America is back. But I think for people in many foreign capitals, the America that is back is not one that they recognize. It is no longer the can-do country. And they worry that the United States is a country that has effectively become dysfunctional. The president says he is going to do something on behalf of the United States. Can he actually follow through?
The president insists American credibility is returning, but week after week he's battling to deliver on his own priorities. And with Donald Trump hitting the campaign trail only this past weekend, some international leaders may be keeping a close eye over the president's shoulder. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
The main news again. The Biden administration announces that 32 countries have pledged to reduce methane emissions, a key driver of global warming. U.S. pharmaceutical company Merck is seeking emergency use authorization for its antiviral COVID-19 treatment. And Germany stops offering free COVID-19 tests due to the widespread availability of vaccines. That is the latest feature story news. Ira Spitzer reporting.
After decades of searching the cosmos, today NASA announced that what it was really looking for was right here on planet Earth all along.
For years, we've foolishly chased after comets, moons, and stars. Outer space may be beautiful, but it's not as beautiful as the smile of a child, nor as sublime as a good bottle of wine shared among friends. Our search ends where it began, here on this big blue marble.
Astronomers say that while their telescopes were pointing at Mars, they never even noticed the planet that was right in front of them. NASA now plans to appreciate what they already have. The agency's latest report, entitled Wonder is Everywhere, Finding the Beauty in the Everyday, calls for further study of the little things that truly give life meaning.
Warm rain on a summer day, the smell of pine trees, touching the worn paper of your favorite book, that's what's always made us happy, not some asteroid a million miles away.
This is the Onion News Network. Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live. Welcome to the program here where you can take control of the airwaves and bring up whatever is on your mind. Our number is 603-283-6160. At 603-283-6160. Here in the studio with you tonight, you've got Ian.
And Bonnie.
And Aria.
And of course, you can take control of the airwaves. Bring up whatever is on your mind. As always, there's just a ton of interesting stuff in the news that we can discuss with you. Coming up, it's here, Freedom Day for New South Wales.
I thought you were going to say inflation.
Oh, well, that's definitely here. And we can talk about that, too, if you want. But New South Wales, Australia, Freedom Day.
I'm sure they're celebrating all of the freedoms they've enjoyed for the last 18 months.
Yeah, we'll tell you about, of course, they were on lockdown, like total crazy lockdown. So now it's Freedom Day. That's what the government is actually calling this there. And we will explain to you what exactly that means.
Is it newly Freedom Day? Is it like, okay, we're lifting the lockdowns, so we're going to call this Freedom Day?
Yes, that's it.
Oh.
Yeah, it's Freedom Day.
So New South Wales lockdown is ending?
Well... We'll get into
Freedom
that.
With an asterisk.
Yeah, a big asterisk on this one. We'll tell you about that on the way here. But I think what is probably one of the biggest stories that I've been seeing on social media here today that the libertarian types are passing around has to be what's happening with Southwest Airlines. And I actually saw this story a couple of days ago from Activist Post that the Southwest Pilots Union is suing to block the airline's vaccination mandate. And I believe that ties into why the Southwest Corporation had to cancel hundreds, I believe over 600 flights yesterday, and some were saying that it was canceling more than 1,000 flights today.
Southwest is, as far as I'm aware, they're denying that it has anything to do with the vaccination mandate, but
correct.
How could it possibly not?
What are they trying to say, that it is because of
weather.
Which is ridiculous.
And why didn't every other airline have to cancel?
Exactly. So let me get into the story here by, obviously not his real name, Tyler Durden, in what appears to be one of the first cases of a union pushing back against the new COVID vaccination requirements handed down by the Biden administration. A union representing pilots at Southwest Airlines is suing to stop the vaccination requirement from being forced until a lawsuit is resolved. The Bloomberg reports that the union representing Southwest pilots has asked a court to grant a temporary stay against the federal vaccination rules until an ongoing lawsuit over what they allege are violations of U.S. labor laws is resolved. Now, interestingly, there's another kind of related story to this that I bookmarked the other day, and that is, I forget which magazine it was, but somebody was reporting, claiming that the Federalist.com, reporting a few days ago saying Joe Biden's vaccine mandate doesn't exist. It's just a press release. Have you heard about this?
I have not.
Yeah.
I've heard people asserting that, like in comments, but I don't know how to know if it's true.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to find out that it's true. I mean, based on what we saw last year with the executive orders from Sununu, people just assumed they knew what they said, and they enforced them according to what they understood them to say without ever actually reading them to see what they were.
Right.
Yeah, sorry, ma'am. It's the law.
Right. Very few people actually checked to see if what was being said was actually the words on paper. Not that we on this show necessarily believe that strangers should be able to write any words on paper and have it apply to us, but
sure,
that's what most of these people who believe in the state believe, and yet most of them don't even check and see what they say. So I'm going to just divert for a moment to this other story, and then we'll get back to the Southwest Airlines. Because, again, they said Southwest Pilots Union is suing over the mandate, which is supposedly the thing that Biden handed down.
I don't think it could possibly be a mandate, though, because Delta, United, and American Airlines have all said they're not going to mandate vaccinations for their staff.
Are you sure about that?
They did. I know American Airlines said that before the quote-unquote mandate, but I was wondering if they're going to continue doing that or if they're just like, oh, our hands are tied, we have to do it now.
Well, it was just a few days ago that I saw this.
I hope it's true. I like American Airlines the most.
Well, I always, airlines suck generally, but I always was most entertained by Southwest. They usually have like what do they call them? Stewardess? I know that's the wrong word or whatever. The
flight attendants.
Flight attendants.
Sure.
The head
okay,
attendant.
Dave Chappelle.
That's also something we could talk about because Bonnie and I saw his special last night and it was fantastic. But they always at least had more fun with the stupid crap that they had to do. Whenever they have to read off the usual spiel at the beginning of every flight.
Don't you hate that?
It's so boring.
It's like you can just hand a pamphlet or something to the people who are first-time flyers. The rest of us, we've been through
heard
this
it before. But they're FAA mandated or whatever to do it, right? It's a government that certainly is mandating this. But
like the stupid cart that needed a sticker that we waited for like an hour and 40 minutes on?
Yeah. But Southwest was the only company that I've ever flown on where they actually gave their flight attendants the leeway to kind of get creative with it and crack jokes and have fun with it. You never encountered this on
I would
Southwest?
just be completely blanking it out and not hear any of it anyway.
It was actually entertaining on a bunch of the Southwest flights that I've been on. So anyway, but that doesn't mean they're a good corporation or anything like that because they all suck.
Yeah.
And the airline business is highly regulated. And when you have high, levels of regulation, you have very little choice. And when you have very little choice, you get crappy customer service. And in the case of these...
you generally get pretty good customer service on flights. I mean, as far as a flight goes, there's only like one flight attendant for every, 60 people or whatever, but within that confine, you still get pretty good customer service in my experience.
Well, I'm not saying it's, monopoly level bad, but...
And I think the worst is like going through checking your bags in the airport. The airport people are always like, oh, I hate my life. Don't ask me a question. Get away from me, But I would say that I have the least bad experience with American Airlines.
It probably depends on the airport that you're in and, which crew you're getting. So it just all depends. But let me jump into this story here from the Federalist. And this is, who's writing this? Joy Pullman. She says, we've all heard about Joe Biden's alleged vaccine mandate for private companies employing 100 or more people, which obviously includes every airline. It was all over the news even before he announced it on September 9th. His announcement has jeopardized the employment of millions of Americans and increased worker shortages in critical domains such as healthcare. But there's only one problem. It's all a mirage. Biden's so-called vaccine mandate doesn't exist. at least not yet. So far, all we have, and this was written on the 7th of this month, is his press conference and other such made-for-media huff-puffing. No such rule, even claiming to be legally binding, has been issued yet. That's why nearly 24 Republican attorneys general who have publicly voiced their opposition to the clearly unconstitutional and illegal mandate haven't yet filed suit against it. The Office of the Indiana Attorney General confirmed for this reporter there is no mandate to even take to court. And that might
Well, that's a relief at least.
And that might be part of the plan. According to several sources, so far it appears no such mandate has been sent to the White House's Office of Information and Regulatory Affairs yet for approval. The White House, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, OSHA, and the Department of Labor haven't released any official guidance for the alleged mandate. There is no executive order. There's nothing but press statements. Isn't that interesting?
Ruled by
press release?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it seems to work, but it all comes back to, people not checking to see what the actual words on the paper are. And if you live in a rule of law country that supposedly has laws written down that people have to follow, it's important that these stuff actually be written down.
And they go through whatever stupid procedures they're supposed to go through.
Well, this is just what Joe Biden is saying, but if OSHA changes its laws or its, guidelines or whatever because of it, doesn't it basically become like a fascist law?
Well, I mean, OSHA is absolutely, an unconstitutional agency that shouldn't exist, and presumably they can update their regulations without asking Congress. So, I mean, this is probably a relatively simple thing to put into place. But as they're pointing out here, if they do put it into place, then it can be challenged in court. If, on the other hand, it's just Joe Biden getting up in front of a room of reporters and saying a thing, then there's no legal, justification. You can't go to court on a law that doesn't exist, or an executive order that was never written, or a regulation that was never, promulgated in any way.
Seems like a really good way to end up in a dictatorship, for the president's speeches to have the force of law behind them.
Well, yeah, and if corporations just, hop to it and just do whatever it is that this guy says without any kind of legal procedure.
Think of all the leg hair that's going to get stroked.
Then yes, Bonnie, that does sound very fascist, for sure. There's more coming up here in moments. The number 603-283-6160. You can join us and share your thoughts on Free Talk Live.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
Breaking weather news. Belize is sunny and around 82 degrees every day this week.
What's the forecast for your life? If current politics and economic prospects are cramping your freedom, escape to the tropics. ECI Development has affordable second homes for you to own or rent in Belize and other tropical countries. Places with stable governments and growing economies. Secure your freedom now. To find out more, send an email to ftl@ecidevelopment.com.
When Monster Hunter International discovers one of Isaac Newton's ward stones being auctioned off, they decide to steal it and use it to destroy the Chaos God once and for all. But a mysterious thief upends their plan, and it soon becomes a race against time as something much older and infinitely more evil awakens in the jungles of South America. Monster Hunter Bloodlines by New York Times best-selling author Larry Correia and Baen Books. Visit monsterhunternation.com for more.
Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this, right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it, and once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world. So I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here. And I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit ShireSociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, connect with others via the forum at ShireSociety.com. That's ShireSociety.com. Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get 1 free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
This is Free Talk Live, and you're invited to join us here. The number is 603-283-6160. When Joe Biden announced the new supposed mandate that so many corporations are just, hopping to enforce that if you've got over 100 employees, there has to be a vaccination requirement. When he made that announcement, did anybody actually check to see if there really was such a mandate?
I didn't, but that's because I don't care if there's one or not.
Me either.
Yeah, I'm the same way. But apparently somebody did check. Joy Pullman from thefederalist.com looked into it and found out that the reason why a bunch of attorneys general from roughly 24 Republican red states have not filed suit, as they all, there was a lot of rattling about, we're going to sue over this. Well, the reason they haven't is because they can't find anything. There's apparently nothing that's been written down in any meaningful sense beyond a press release from the White House about this.
So it makes it basically if a whole bunch of private companies decided to do this, you can't sue them. That's basically what this makes it into.
Well, if a private company is doing something at the behest of the government,
but
then
they have no proof that they're doing it at the behest of the government.
That's what I'm saying. If they're doing it at the behest of the government, I don't think you could sue the private company over it.
No, it sounds like Biden needs to be sued for abusing the power of his office to create laws via speeches.
But if the private company is doing it on their own volition without being mandated by the government, which it sounds like they're doing, essentially.
But they're saying their reason is the mandate.
Which that doesn't appear to exist. So there may be some basis for a lawsuit here, Bonnie. Again, I'm not an attorney, so I can't give legal advice. But according to the story here at thefederalist.com, it says that there's nothing that gives employers any mandate. This is the spokesperson for the Indiana Occupational Safety and Health Administration, Stephanie McFarland, their spokesbureaucrat, said further, quote, "The president made an announcement on this asking OSHA to do it, but we've not seen anything come from it yet," presuming it means OSHA. She says, or it says here, when the state agency gets any further information, they will review it. To impose the public perception of a mandate, the Biden administration is following an unusual rulemaking process it employed earlier this year called an Emergency Temporary Standard, or ETS. The spring ETS rule took nearly 6 months to issue. Meanwhile, companies are telling reporters their vaccine mandates will have at the latest December deadlines. And for those who can't calendar, that's 4 months after Biden's non-existent mandate was proclaimed. According to OSHA, one of these ETS, Emergency Temporary Standards, takes up to 6 months to go into effect after the initial mandate is issued in the Federal Register, which again, for the proclaimed 100-employee mandate, that hasn't even happened yet. Lawyers for big business were blunt about this love for this their love for this mandate mirage. Quote, "Everybody loves this cover," said an employment lawyer in Minneapolis to Bloomberg Law, saying further, quote, "Many were already looking down the road at doing this, but the fact they get to blame Biden is like manna from heaven." Using ETS procedure instead of normal federal rulemaking process allows the Biden administration to push its demands faster and without any public input or requirement of responding to public input.
Sounds like tyranny.
Which sure does, which is normally required of even legally laughable federal rulemaking like this one would be.
Sounds a lot like what Sununu's trying to do.
What is Sununu trying to do?
So Wednesday...
That's the governor of New Hampshire.
So Wednesday, he's going to have a vote with a small committee. And apparently people are saying legally he's supposed to have all of the legislature agreeing to this, not just a small committee. And he was supposed to give the public 5 days notice as to the location he's going to be in. It has to be publicly accessible. He's going to be voting on whether or not to take millions. I've heard $300 million.
I checked it today. Apparently it's $327 million.
$327 million from the federal government for COVID relief things, including tracking us.
That sounds pretty bad.
So he
wants that money that...
Yeah, he does.
That
with all the strings
Congress
attached.
in New Hampshire said, no, we don't want this.
Yep, they already said no. And now there's a small committee. He kicked one person off the committee, apparently. I heard that. And they already met to say...
The guy he kicked off the committee was the guy who we quoted the other day. He was the head of the committee. He was the guy who said you can't trust anyone in the government. Now he's been removed from that committee.
Ken something?
Yeah.
So they already met at a elementary school, and they didn't have enough people. It only fit 70 people, but like hundreds showed up. And they were having they were all saying vote no and you can't do this and stuff like that. And
was this a protest that he went and cried about on the internet saying, they threatened me, we felt unsafe?
So they felt unsafe, they said, and they, didn't do the meeting that day.
And then he subsequently canceled an appearance he was going to have out at one of the orchards here in
Allison's Orchard.
In the Keene area.
So our tyrant's running scared.
Yeah.
Yep. And
that should tell him something.
So he's supposed to give 5 days notice, but he didn't. He gave a 2-day notice, and he's going to be at a community college in Concord on Wednesday, and I'm going to go with Nikki and film it, and there's going to be a lot of people there saying vote no. Or,
it's the same crew.
This is illegal. They shouldn't even vote. But
that scared the people at the previous meeting by protesting and speaking
peacefully. Protesting.
I'm hoping more people show up.
It may very well attract more people, although the last one there were hundreds apparently at this particular event. So I think that there's a good chance we may see more people showing up. I mean, you're going and you didn't know about the previous one, so other people who probably didn't know about the other one are now likely on top of this. So.
And that's this Wednesday at what time?
9 a.m.
Which community college?
In Concord, it's called NHIT.
Yeah, that's way too early for me. I won't make it, but...
And I'm stuck here due to my lockdown. I have to ask permission to leave, and I have to give them, plenty of notice. So
well, we got 2 from Free Talk Live that are going to go.
Yep.
Maybe I'll get Chris to go.
That'd be great. He definitely doesn't get up that early.
Yeah, he's also not getting that.
I got him to go or get up that early to go pick up nobody. So
OSHA has used this legal authority, this ETS rule, only 10 times in the last 50 years.
Well, it sounds like they shouldn't have the authority to do it.
Well, according to this story, one of the reasons why they don't use them very often is because they've been overturned in courts overwhelmingly. According to a couple of authors of the Wall Street Journal, quote, courts have decided challenges to 6 of those standards, nixing 5 and upholding only 1. So of the 6 times that the ETSs have been challenged, only 1 has been upheld. There are many other reasons why any federal vaccine mandate would be obviously illegal and unconstitutional. The Wall Street Journal wrote, quote, the states have plenary police power to regulate health and safety. Congress has only those limited powers enumerated in the Constitution. That wouldn't include the authority to impose a $155 fine on an individual who declines to be vaccinated, much less to prevent him from earning a livelihood, unquote. But who needs a constitution when you have an American people conditioned for compliance with even wildly outlandish things the screen people insist they must think and do? I don't know who the screen people are.
The media.
Oh, people on television. So anyway, there's more to this story, but it gives you some idea of apparently this whole mandate is in question. So whether or not the Southwest Airlines Pilots Union will actually even be able to sue over it, because, if there's no mandate coming from Biden, they can't sue him. So maybe they are suing Southwest.
They are suing Southwest, and it's because their union has some sort of federal regulation about it regarding what the airlines can and can't make them do. It's all very weird.
And as a result, supposedly, these pilots have stopped flying, and that's why Southwest had to cancel like 1,000 flights in the last 24 to 48 hours, although Southwest is claiming it was due to weather. There's more coming up here. You can share your thoughts, especially if you're stuck in an airport right now. It's Free Talk Live. Free Talk Live's video archives have been on LBRY for years. LBRY is an uncensorable, decentralized, blockchain-based media sharing protocol, and we're big fans of it here on Free Talk Live. In 2020, LBRY launched Odysee, a video sharing website to compete with YouTube, and it's really taking off. Now with over 1 million channels, many of whom are disaffected YouTube creators. During YouTube's crackdown for not towing the government line on COVID, the Free Talk Live YouTube channel started receiving strikes and could be completely taken down at any moment. Thankfully, Odysee started offering live streaming, so we're now streaming live every night and posting our video archives permanently to Odysee. You can watch live or anytime on our Odysee channel by visiting video.freetalklive.com. If you want to go all in, download the desktop app at lbry.com, and then every video archive you watch, you'll help seed and keep it online forever. At minimum, we ask you visit video.freetalklive.com and follow us on Odysee today. video.freetalklive.com.
From Feature Story News in San Francisco, I'm Ira Spitzer. The Biden administration has announced that 32 countries have pledged to reduce methane emissions, a key driver of global warming. The pledge, developed with the European Union, commits to cut emissions from methane 30% by the year 2030. It comes ahead of next month's UN climate conference in Glasgow, Scotland. However, the 4 heaviest emitters of methane, China, India, Russia, and Brazil, have not signed on. U.S. pharmaceutical company Merck is seeking emergency use authorization for an antiviral COVID-19 treatment. It would be the first oral drug approved for use against the virus. FSN's Sarah Walton reports from New York.
Merck says its drug molnupiravir is for use by adults with COVID-19 who are at risk of developing serious symptoms. It's applied for emergency use authorization from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration after a study of more than 700 patients showed the capsules reduced the risk of hospitalization or death by approximately 50%, although the data has not yet been peer-reviewed or published. The company says it expects to produce 10 million courses of the treatment by the end of this year. Sarah Walton, New York.
Germany has stopped offering free COVID-19 tests, with state leaders saying the availability of vaccines means it's unnecessary for taxpayers to continue to fund the free testing program. From Berlin, FSN's Trent Murray reports.
The new rules mean people in Germany will have to pay for rapid COVID-19 tests themselves, though there are exceptions for people who cannot be vaccinated, as well as for children under 12. The tests had previously been offered for free across Germany since the beginning of March, but Chancellor Angela Merkel and Germany's state premiers have agreed to the new move because of the availability of vaccinations to all citizens, with leaders saying it's unfair for taxpayers to continue to subsidise the tests. 65.3% of the German population have received both of their vaccine doses, while 68.5% have received at least one. Trent Murray, Berlin.
At least 8 people have been killed and several others abducted in a raid carried out by armed men in the east of the Democratic Republic of Congo. FSN's Chris Ochamringa reports from Kinshasa.
Congolese authorities say a group of armed men attacked Mangazi village in eastern DRC on Sunday. The fighters burnt houses, abducted several residents, and killed others. The Congolese army has blamed the attack on a rebel group called the Allied Democratic Forces, an Islamist extremist group. The DRC president declared a state of siege in North Kivu and Ituri province in May this year in a bid to end all rebel activities in the east of the country. But the attacks have continued. The Congolese army and the police have replaced all civilian authorities in the 2 provinces racked by conflict.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
Free Talk Live. You can join us here. The number is 603-283-6160. Take control of the airwaves. Bring up whatever's on your mind. With you in the studio tonight, it's Ian.
It's Bonnie.
And Aria.
And unfortunately, there's a little bit of bad news about tomorrow night. We've been promoting something that I think a lot of people were excited about.
I was.
It's still happening.
It's still happening. It's just delayed a week. So you're going to have to wait an extra week to watch Arya and Conan torture themselves for your entertainment.
And it is going to be absolute torture, man.
And it will be entertaining. You can guaranteed, or your money back, which you won't have to pay for it. You actually just watch it for free because we're going to stream it on our Odyssey channel over at video.freetalklive.com. So you can go there now and you can subscribe to the Odyssey channel. And what will be happening? Well, as I understand it, you guys have at least 4 different types of hot peppers.
Yes, I think there's jalapeno, habanero, ghost pepper, and Carolina Reapers.
And Carolina Reaper being the hottest pepper in the world?
Well, it's the officially recognized hottest pepper in the world, but the same guy, I don't remember his name, invented a new one.
Really?
That is called Pepper X or something.
Oh my.
That's a little bit hotter.
Okay. But this is right up there.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, and once you get to a certain, Scoville intensity, it doesn't really matter whether it's 2 million or 2.3 million.
Yeah. It's going to be torture.
Yeah.
So you guys are going to eat them in order. So you'll start with the lightweight stuff like the jalapeno.
I don't even know. Should we even bother with the jalapenos, man?
Well, I mean,
it's basically a fruit. I guess we will. But...
whet your appetite a little bit with the jalapeno.
Okay, yeah, fair.
That way you can still have some flavor, because later it's not about the flavor. It's just about
And some
the
people
heat.
will still find the jalapeno eating impressive.
Really?
Yeah, there are definitely people that
Jalapenos?
can't do it.
I mean, there are people who think spaghetti sauce is spicy.
True, that's true.
And garlic.
So check it out over at video.freetalklive.com and mark your calendar. Change the marking on it because it was going to be tomorrow. Now it's October 19th, so the following Tuesday. This coming next Tuesday, October 19th. It'll start at around 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time at video.freetalklive.com. All right, so we were talking about this Southwest Airlines situation where apparently the pilots union is pushing back against COVID vaccination requirements that were supposedly handed down by the Biden administration, but now we're finding out that there doesn't actually appear to be any kind of written ruling on that or written rule from Biden. It's just a press release. But nonetheless...
This is also provable, right? Mm-hmm. Like, executive orders are public records.
There should be a number.
OSHA things are also public record.
Yep.
So if there was an actual mandate or something, they would be able to point to it and say, hey, no, look, there it is.
But they don't.
So is this article saying that OSHA hasn't changed any rules?
Well,
either?
that was what the other story was talking about. The Federalist was saying there's nothing on OSHA, there's no executive order, nothing. And so, anyway, that's the excuse, of course, these corporations are using. Like, oh, well, Biden said it. So, hey, we didn't want to do this to you, but Biden's making us do it, so blame Biden. Well, according to the story at activistpost.com, Bloomberg is reporting that the Southwest Pilots Union has asked a court to grant a stay against these rules until a lawsuit, which they allege are violations of U.S. labor laws, is resolved. In a court hearing, or rather filing on Friday, the Southwest Airlines Pilots Association has also asked for an immediate hearing on the request before a federal court in Dallas, claiming the carrier has continued to take unilateral actions that violate the terms of the Railway Labor Act, which governs relations between airlines and employee unions. The unilateral action in question is the company's attempt to force workers to either get the jab or be fired or sent on unpaid leave. Quote, the new vaccine mandate unlawfully imposes new conditions of employment, and the new policy threatens termination of any pilot not fully vaccinated. So they're basically saying, hey, look, we've got a contract.
Yeah.
Okay. Our contract says this is what our conditions are. You can't just come in and say, well, new condition. Doesn't work like that. There's like a whole negotiation process, right? Like when you're dealing with unions and corporations, if the contract's coming up for negotiation, there's a lengthy, expensive process where that gets whatever the potential changes are, raises or bonuses or, whatever it is going to be, gets hashed out. And then a new contract gets signed for whatever period of time that lasts.
But sure, Southwest, your problems are due to air traffic control and the weather.
with hundreds, if not over 1,000 flight cancellations in just the last 2 days.
I haven't heard of any crazy weather happening in the United States. It's awesome
It's
here.
been like clear almost everywhere, or just slightly cloudy.
It's been awesome here.
Southwest Airlines' additional and new unilateral modification of the parties' collective bargaining agreement is in clear violation of the Railway Labor Act. This is an excerpt.
I mean, that sounds like a pretty airtight argument.
It does. According to the guidelines set out by Biden and, quote, voluntarily, unquote, embraced by most of the major airlines, Southwest has a deadline of October 4th under the federal mandate for employees to get jabbed or have an approved medical or religious exemption. Southwest is affected by the mandate because it has contracts with the federal government, like many large businesses. The union
But again, what mandate?
Exactly. The union represents 9,000 pilots at the airline, and a strike could easily disrupt American air travel. Now, this was written one day before the strike actually started.
So they are striking?
Well, again, Southwest isn't admitting that, but there's posts on the internet that are suggesting that it's not officially a strike, but what's happening, supposedly, are the employees are doing what's called a sick out.
Okay.
So they've got...
So they're striking without calling it a strike.
Correct. What they're doing, essentially, is they've got this deadline, right, of October 4th or whatever.
Did that already pass? Because you said October 4th. Or is it November 4th and you accidentally said October?
No, it does say October 4th here under the federal mandate. I mean, they could have gotten
a week ago.
Yeah, they could have gotten that fact wrong. But apparently what they're doing here is the pilots are using their sick days. So, you know, when you work for a big corporation, you get a certain number of sick days usually that you can kind of bank to some extent. And eventually those things will expire if you don't use them. And so basically the pilots came together and said, all right, let's all use our sick days at the same time.
Yeah.
And that appears to be what's going on here. The story from Axios.
But sure, it's the weather's fault.
Yeah, according to Axios.com, Southwest Airlines has canceled more than 1,000 flights over this weekend, leaving passengers stranded across the country. According to the story, the mass cancellations came after its pilots, again, filed that lawsuit in court. Southwest Pilots Union said the cancellations are not part of a planned labor demonstration. So the union isn't officially doing this. But yet, more than 25% of the airline's flights were canceled on Sunday per a website called flightaware.com and their flight tracker. In a press release...
It's going to suck when the union does actually announce it.
Make a stand on this? Yeah. Quote, we can say with confidence that our pilots are not participating in any official or unofficial job actions. Our pilots will continue to overcome SWA management's poor planning as well as any external operational challenges.
Oh, I see. The weather is giving all of their pilots allergies.
This is actually a press release from the Pilots Association, so from the union. So they're saying, oh, this is, Southwest Airlines.
This is bad management.
Bad management.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like it.
Southwest said the cancellations and delays were caused by disruptive weather and an air traffic control issue, though no other airlines were impacted so dramatically. And this leads to another interesting detail here. So you never know what's true when it comes to, any news media at all, but social media posts, right? Like there's like some image of somebody saying a thing. You have no idea if the image was doctored or if the person saying the thing is really who they say they are.
Lots of quotes are just not really who they say it is.
But what's the scuttlebutt is that the air traffic controllers are also protesting, that the air traffic controllers are also walking out on the job because they are also not wanting to be vaccinated. And this is supposedly coming from Southwest and other pilots. They hear things, right? There's talk around the airport about what's really going on. So, and then there's another image somebody posted on our chat server over at chat.freetalklive.com, the Matrix chat, of a Southwest, what clearly is a Southwest Airlines jet with the window open to the cockpit and a "Don't Tread on Me" flag hanging out the...
Gadsden flag?
Yeah.
Wow.
So something's going on out there, and if you've got any kind of inside scoop you want to share with us, the number is 603-283-6160. You can join us on Free Talk Live.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market.
Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
If you're looking for work, or even if you're not, here's an innocent mistake you really want to avoid. Never return calls before listening to your voicemail. Your wireless phone sends calls you didn't answer into voicemail, and it shows you phone numbers for calls you missed. Important. Don't call back callers you missed until you have first listened to your messages. Otherwise, you frustrate people who bothered to leave messages by asking them to repeat a message they just left as your voicemail greeting instructed them to. If you're a job applicant, this alone could be a deal killer. And even if you're not, there are few things you can convey to someone that are as fundamentally maddening as, "I didn't hear you." With money and attention so scarce now, effective communication skills have never been more important. For more tips for job seekers and everyone else, hit survivalspeech.com. I'm Holland Cook.
The LRN.FM social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it.
My name is Jacob Hornberger. I'm president of the Future of Freedom Foundation, which Congressman Ron Paul awarded for having an outstanding freedom website. Write us at fff@fff.org, and we'll send you a free 3-month subscription to our monthly journal of libertarian essays and our booklet, Economic Liberty in the Constitution, which George Mason University economics professor Walter Williams praised in a recent column. That's fff@fff.org.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. You can bring up anything you want here. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. You can bring up whatever's on your mind. We've been talking about the Southwest Airlines. Not a real strike, but it sure does.
Just like it's not a real mandate.
Yeah, it sure does feel a lot like a strike. They're doing a sick out, supposedly, where some large number of their pilots has chosen to utilize their sick time or their sick days that they built up, or their vacation days, or all of the above, right now. right as this supposed mandate, this vaccination mandate, has gone into place or is about to go into place. We're not really sure on the dates. And by the way, Aria, you found some corrected information. Turns out almost every airline does now have a vaccination mandate.
Delta is the only one who doesn't have one, but it's not really that much better. It's penalizing employees with a $200 premium to their health insurance, requiring them to get weekly COVID-19 tests, and they still have to wear a mask, which I don't understand. Within an airline, within an airport or an airplane, you have to wear a mask.
Yeah, they're making everybody do it.
So that's not really a penalty, but $200 a month for not being vaccinated.
And they're not the only corporation that's doing that. I've heard that elsewhere as well, to, quote, incentivize people to get the vaccine.
Are you going to hit people with a surcharge if they eat fast food? Because that's tremendously more unhealthy.
Yeah, sure. How many of these people are just vastly obese? You know, these employees that they have. You want to talk about, and that's a great point, because there's been some of these people who previously had been in favor of universal health care are now saying that they want surcharges.
Because healthcare is a right.
Yeah, but those very same people are now saying online that they want surcharges added to people who don't get the vaccine because it's going to, in their beliefs, increase the cost of healthcare. Which is,
so they want a private market system where an insurance company can evaluate your lifestyle and adjust your rates accordingly. Like, oh, you smoke, you need to pay more. Oh, you drink every day. Oh, you do cocaine.
It would be nice.
That would be messed up, Aria.
It would be nice if they'd actually come to that conclusion.
But that seems to be what they're saying.
They're sort of on the edge of that. That does seem to be what they're saying, but you know they haven't come to that conclusion. They only want to punish this one specific group of people.
No, people of size are never going to admit that they're more, costing the healthcare industry more money than anybody unvaccinated.
Well, but the reality is, if you actually did get a universal health care, then you'd hear a lot more about these restrictions. Then there would be a whole bunch of other decisions being made about who gets health care and who doesn't, because there's not an unlimited amount of money out there, and there's not an unlimited amount of doctors.
I mean, they're already performing triage as though being unvaccinated makes you more likely to die.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Or not giving you a transplant because you're unvaccinated.
Yep.
And what about all the people who are getting the vaccine who are dying of things like blood clots? And there was another story about UK. The UK, they've approved the vaccine for teenagers apparently now, and the number of teenage boys who are dying and ending up in the hospital has gone up significantly.
Like 20-something percent.
I haven't heard about this. What are they dying of?
I don't know exactly, but
Ian saved it so he could pull it
it's
up
somewhere
later.
in my show prep, but it's just an ugly situation all around. So good luck to these Southwest pilots. Don't know how long this particular protest can continue for, but if more people had this level of resolve to actually make a stand for where they work, to stand together and put these corporations in a position of having to either fire massive swaths of their employees or crumble under the pressure and let people actually have their jobs back, then
that's the critical thing right now. These corporations, they literally can't lose more staff. And I suspect the pilots know this. No matter where you work, the place you work at cannot afford to fire you.
Yeah,
and that's
they can't find anyone to hire.
And that seems to be almost universally true in every industry, in every business throughout the United States. It's time to use your power as a worker for what you want.
Yeah, you don't need a union for this either.
No. What's messed up about, how New York just fired all the unvaccinated nurses? They're letting people from out of state work for like 10 times the amount of, I don't know if it's 10 times, but way more money than in-state nurses who are unvaccinated were getting paid before they got fired. So they're not really going to suffer because they have all these out-of-state nurses.
Well, but the out-of-state nurses also are being asked to work, overtime where they're working. So how many of those out-of-state nurses are actually available to go work in New York?
Yeah, maybe they'll suffer eventually, but maybe that's why they didn't have, there isn't something on the news yet.
Maybe the New York nurses who were fired can just come to New Hampshire to do the remote work or whatever it is they call it.
That's what needs to happen. Is there just needs to be a massive reorganization of belief systems. There need to be people who have, those who are unvaccinated, who have a belief in freedom, who want to live more free, are willing to actually make a stand. Come to New Hampshire and help us stop this insanity that you were talking about, Bonnie, with the New Hampshire government wanting to take over $300 million from the federal government for whatever various different COVID mandates. The more people that we have opposing this stuff, the more, strong our presence is going to be, the more difficult it's going to be for these goons like Governor Chris Sununu to actually get away with the crap that they're trying to do behind closed doors and such.
And it sounds like he's not getting away with it.
Not yet.
Yeah, but you know that New York is absolutely going to get away with it. So if you have those feelings, you need to get out of there.
Yeah, and this is what needs to happen. There need to be very deliberate movements of humans to places that are more friendly to them. So conservatives, get down to Texas. Liberals, get out to California, which, by the way, is now banning all gas-powered lawn equipment and generators. There's also some other crazy story from California we can talk about where they're mandating that large retailers have a gender-neutral toy section.
Oh, good Lord.
I saw that was so weird.
So, yeah, if you're liberal, get out to California. If you're a libertarian or, freedom-minded anarchist or a voluntarist, you need to get to New Hampshire. There's just we cannot live together with these people anymore.
Not if these people want gender-neutral toy owls, man.
Mandatory gender-neutral toy aisles.
Right. So we can talk about all that stuff, and of course your calls and thoughts are welcome. But I know, Aria, you and I both had a similar story here tonight. I've got it pulled up, the Superman story.
Yes.
Now, look, I'm not a big comic book fan. Did you grow up with comic books?
I've read one, well, if you don't count like Johnny the Homicidal Maniac, I mean, superhero comic books, I've read like one in my entire life.
Me neither. I've never really, I don't even know if I've read an entire. My dad was kind of into them, so I certainly saw them around. I might have paged through a few of them, but I've never read or followed any superhero plot lines. I think I saw the X-Men art cartoon a few times when,
that was pretty
in the
good.
90s. I enjoyed that as like a Saturday morning cartoon or whatever. But Bonnie, you're saying you were also not into comic books.
I was never into comic books.
I had a few comics, but it wasn't the superhero stuff either. But everybody knows who Superman is, right?
Yeah.
Like, you'd have to be living under a total rock to not know who Superman is.
I mean, he's probably the most well-known superhero character in the world.
Yeah, whether he's any good of a superhero as far as his powers. I mean, some say he's overpowered or whatever.
He is. He was never designed to be immortal. He just became more and more powerful the more arrogant and egotistical the United States became, because he was always a symbol of the United States. I mean, he couldn't fly initially, right?
I didn't know that.
And he wasn't initially. He had the power to leap over tall. He could leap very high.
Oh, interesting.
But that just wasn't good enough, so he developed the power of flight. And the same is true with his invincibility and all of the other stuff. He was never designed to be indestructible.
Well, whoever it was that designed Superman, do you think they saw this one coming? Superman, well, actually, apparently the new Superman. So apparently, according to the story at dnyuz.com, this isn't the original Superman. This is the son of Superman and Lois Lane. So Clark Kent, Lois Lane, Clark Kent was Superman.
But he's
they had
a junior.
baby. This is I guess he's inherited the title or something. He's now the Superman.
Did Clark Kent get too old to continue doing it? How does that work?
I haven't been following the plot. Obviously, if you have and you want to weigh in, you can. 603-283-6160. But now Superman is woke. According to the story here, he is going to begin a romantic relationship with a male friend. According to DC Comics, the same-sex relationship.
I guess that's better than punching Japs or whatever he was doing back in the 40s.
It's one of the ways that Jonathan Kent, who goes by John, is proving to be a different Superman than that of his famous father. Since his new series, Superman, Son of Kal-El, began in July, get this, John has combated wildfires caused by climate change.
I read that garbage, man.
What was that?
5G towers?
No. Boarded, that would be the right-wing written Superman. The right-wing paranoid conspiracy Superman.
This one fights climate change.
Right. Thwarted a high school shooting and protested the deportation of refugees in Metropolis. I'm all in favor of, protesting the deportation of peaceful people. But, man, this sounds absolutely intolerable as far as it's bad when it's in movies. Now, political agendas are in comic books, and maybe they've always been there.
I think they've always been there.
It doesn't bother me that he's gay.
More coming up here in moments. This is Free Talk Live.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it.
Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
Is oral health important to you? If you don't like your own teeth, fresh breath, or kissing people, then by all means stop listening. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I became passionate about the product that she created and never want to live without it. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, but I find it does much more. They want you to love My Magic Mud as much as I do, so they're giving you a money-back guarantee plus 20% off. Go to mymagicmud.com and use coupon code FTL20 at checkout. mymagicmud.com, FTL20.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in San Francisco, I'm Ira Spitzer. The Biden administration has announced that 32 countries have pledged to reduce methane emissions, a key driver of global warming. The pledge, developed with the European Union, commits to cut emissions from methane 30% by the year 2030. It comes ahead of next month's UN climate conference in Glasgow, Scotland. However, the 4 heaviest emitters of methane, China, India, Russia, and Brazil, have not signed on. U.S. pharmaceutical company Merck is seeking emergency use authorization for an antiviral COVID-19 treatment. It would be the first oral drug approved for use against the virus. FSN's Sarah Walton reports from New York.
Merck says its drug molnupiravir is for use by adults with COVID-19 who are at risk of developing serious symptoms. It's applied for emergency use authorization from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration after a study of more than 700 patients showed the capsules reduced the risk of hospitalization or death by approximately 50%, although the data has not yet been peer-reviewed or published. The company says it expects to produce 10 million courses of the treatment by the end of this year. Sarah Walton, New York.
Germany has stopped offering free COVID-19 tests, with state leaders saying the availability of vaccines means it's unnecessary for taxpayers to continue to fund the free testing program. From Berlin, FSN's Trent Murray reports.
The new rules mean people in Germany will have to pay for rapid COVID-19 tests themselves, though there are exceptions for people who cannot be vaccinated, as well as for children under 12. The tests had previously been offered for free across Germany since the beginning of March, but Chancellor Angela Merkel and Germany's state premiers have agreed to the new move because of the availability of vaccinations to all citizens, with leaders saying it's unfair for taxpayers to continue to subsidise the tests. 65.3% of the German population have received both of their vaccine doses, while 68.5% have received at least one. Trent Murray, Berlin.
At least 8 people have been killed and several others abducted in a raid carried out by armed men in the east of the Democratic Republic of Congo. FSN's Chris Ochamringa reports from Kinshasa.
Congolese authorities say a group of armed men attacked Mangazi village in eastern DRC on Sunday. The fighters burnt houses, abducted several residents, and killed others. The Congolese army has blamed the attack on a rebel group called the Allied Democratic Forces, an Islamist extremist group. The DRC president declared a state of siege in North Kivu and Ituri province in May this year in a bid to end all rebel activities in the east of the country. But the attacks have continued. The Congolese army and the police have replaced all civilian authorities in the two provinces racked by conflict.
From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. The annual autumn meetings of the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank take place this week, and once again, Washington, home to their headquarters, is serving as host. But this year, it's a Washington questioning its own ability to lead on the world stage. Just last week, the country narrowly avoided defaulting on its debts. The week before that, it narrowly avoided a government shutdown. And that leaves some US analysts of international affairs worried about the trajectory their own nation is on.
There are great concerns around the world about the competence of the United States.
Jim Lindsay is with the New York-based Council on Foreign Relations and says the US will be hard-pressed to lead by example at this week's meetings.
The Biden administration is fond of talking about how America is back. But I think for people in many foreign capitals, the America that is back is not one that they recognize. It is no longer the can-do country, and they worry that the United States is a country that has effectively become dysfunctional. The president says he is going to do something on behalf of the United States. Can he actually follow through?
The president insists American credibility is returning, but week after week he's battling to deliver on his own priorities. And with Donald Trump hitting the campaign trail only this past weekend, some international leaders may be keeping a close eye over the president's shoulder. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
The main news again. The Biden administration announces that 32 countries have pledged to reduce methane emissions, a key driver of global warming. U.S. pharmaceutical company Merck is seeking emergency use authorization for its antiviral COVID-19 treatment. And Germany stops offering free COVID-19 tests due to the widespread availability of vaccines. That is the latest feature story news. Ira Spitzer reporting.
For the past several years now, area woman Caitlin Mooney has been convinced that each and every one of her friends should be a professional comedian. Our reporters spoke to Caitlin this morning about her, quote, hilarious group of friends.
Karen is so funny. Like, I can't even explain it. She's always just saying whatever on her mind. She has this totally sassy attitude. You just can't help but laugh. My roommate Rashmi, she always has these hilarious stories that, they're just too much. I'm always telling her that she should just go up on stage and talk. Everyone would love it.
Mooney went on to say that her good friend Lauren is so funny she could, quote, definitely be on Saturday Night Live or The Office, a sentiment she echoed about a number of her other acquaintances, including her childhood friend Marcia, her college roommate Angela, her coworker Julie, and even her sister Jennifer.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live. The number, if you want to join us here, at 603-283-6160. Open phones, as always, 603-283-6160. Here tonight, it's Ian.
It's Bonnie.
And Aria.
Whether you want to talk about the Southwest Airlines mystery of what happened with 25% of their flights being canceled, they say it was due to the weather.
The great weather.
But as Bonnie pointed out earlier, no other airlines had to cancel their flights. And I've been on a Southwest Airlines, I'm pretty sure I was in Southwest at the time when we landed in Manchester in the middle of just an awful snowstorm. It was like crazy snowstorm that this guy landed, and he did a great job. Like, he got a full ovation, like applause from the nice. People on the airline.
And then Mark had to drive home and crash his car.
That might have been the same night, actually. So you can.
I always hate flying because pilots, feel the need to come over and apologize for the turbulence. It's like, there's literally nothing you can do about that, though.
That's true.
It always makes me nervous when they go on the speaker and they in the middle of it, and you're just like, what are they announcing? And then they're just like, just letting you guys know there's going to be some turbulence. It makes me really nervous, and it's usually not that bad.
So anyway, if you can comment on Southwest if you want, but we ended up on a different topic here about, and this is one that both you and I had brought in here tonight, Arya. And neither
presumably
of us,
for about the same reason, just saw it and rolled our eyes.
Yeah, and I thought, okay, I bet Arya is going to have something to say about this, because for listeners that aren't, tuned into our video stream over at video.freetalklive.com, you are a trans person.
I am, and pansexual, so I'm not homophobic.
Define pansexual.
I don't date or have sexual relationships with people based on their gender or gender identity or sex.
So you can be attracted to anyone,
yes,
basically, as long as they meet whatever preferences you have. You have no preference between male or female.
Right.
Okay.
Well, I do have a preference for a female.
I see. Okay.
But that doesn't
go either way.
Right.
Okay.
And I prefer that over bisexual. It's basically the same thing, except pansexual obviously includes like trans people and non-binary people and stuff like that.
Now, I heard you make a point the other day, I think it was on the female or all-ladies show last week, that you don't make a point about bringing attention necessarily to the fact, like, you're not here every single day that you host the show, which is, like, I think 3 days a week right now. You don't bring up trans issues every single day.
No, I talk about it as rarely as possible. I don't want to. It's not a major part of my identity. It just happens to be how I am.
Right. So all of these things that we're talking about, the only reason I mentioned it is simply because it seems kind of relevant, because you might have a,
oh, sure,
somewhat of an opinion about this Superman thing. But does somebody being pansexual and all that really belong in a Superman comic? Like, how much do we really need to know about Superman's sexual preferences?
You would know about his sexual preferences if he was straight and making out with the woman in the rain and stuff. Like, oh wait, I'm thinking of Spider-Man, but still.
They probably do that in Superman too.
I
mean, they do. And my issue here isn't that, we're finding out that Superman's son is gay or whatever. It's just that they're based on the fact that they were fighting climate change and, stopping school shootings and stuff. It's just hard left propaganda.
It's straight up woke.
He's just gay for the sake of having a gay character.
Yeah. They want to sell more comic books because of this, or they think they're going to.
I also think that it's annoying that the gay character has to be that way. Like, why can't he be a gay character that's just like a man that fights bad guys? He has to be protesting.
Yeah, well, obviously we haven't read, the story, so we don't know how they're presented. This is clearly...
Well, he's stopping school shootings and putting out fires caused by climate change, so we can make a pretty good guess about how they're presenting this.
But it's interesting because, like, is that the direction that most... I mean, to take a political position like this, and I don't disagree with you, Bonnie, it shouldn't be a political thing for somebody to be gay, right? Like, you're born that way. Most of the gay people I know, they will tell you they've always been that way. It wasn't a choice that they made or something like that. That's just the way they've been. That's the way they were from birth. There's when they came out about it.
I don't know to what extent I really believe that.
I have no reason to disbelieve it.
My friend realized he was gay when he was 3 watching Man, I Feel Like a Woman. The music
the Shania
video.
Twain
yeah, then there's men in the background dancing. They're not really hot to me, but he said that he was just like, wow, that's hot.
To be clear, I don't disbelieve it either. Yeah. I just see no reason to believe it.
There might be like a mix of people. Like, some people realize it later, or some people decide it later. I don't know.
I mean, maybe they do, but the ones that I've known, like Derek J, for instance, he told me he's always been that way. And another gentleman who used to host the show with us a long time ago said his mom always knew, because he always wanted to like dress up as a girl or whatever, and he turned out to be gay. So, but so it's not a comment about whether or not the person is gay. It's just it seems to be being done for political reasons. Like, they must think that this is going to sell them more comics, and I find myself wondering if that's actually true. Is Superman being woke and rescuing stopping school shooters and stopping forest fires started by climate change, is that actually going to sell them more comics? Because it would seem like taking political positions like that, instead of just fighting Lex Luthor or whatever the plot of the moment might be for Superman, fighting space aliens or whatever the hell it might be, it has to go in a political direction. Aren't you, by definition, going to alienate some of your longest-running fans, whatever ones that might not be woke or, maybe they be conservative-leaning or something like that? Is it really worth it to take that risk, to do that kind of the grandstanding? Or
well, if it's for the younger generation, it might be, because little kids love Paw Patrol, and Paw Patrol is all about wokeness.
I've never read comic books to any meaningful degree, so I could be wrong on this, but I'm pretty sure the vast majority of them have always been strongly political. Like during World War II, Superman was running around like
fighting Nazis or whatever.
Fighting Nazis and the Japanese and stuff like that. And I imagine that persisted in 2001. I'm sure we had Superman comics of him going and tracking down Osama bin Laden or whatever.
Oh my God.
So
wouldn't surprise me.
And I mean, X-Men was created to be an allegory for, LGBTQ people.
Right.
And so it's always sort of been
allegory.
there.
I think it's pronounced allegory.
What did I say?
Allegory.
So he was supposedly
weird.
fighting gay people?
Who was?
Superman was fighting gay people?
I mean, he would have been in the 1940s if they had been included, I'm sure, because it wasn't acceptable to be gay in the 1940s, just like it wasn't acceptable to be Japanese.
But if Lex Luthor was representing gay people and he was fighting him, is that what that was supposed to mean?
Was Lex Luthor representing gay people? Did I miss that?
I don't think so.
Oh, sorry. I thought that's what you said.
Okay. Yeah, I've never heard that claim about Superman before. So
sorry, I just got confused.
But I knew there's always at least been political issues. I don't know if every single comic book is like that, but they do stray into political things pretty frequently, as I understand it. The issue here is just that it's cringeworthy. And it's just done for the sake of... I cringe just as much hearing this as I cringed looking at 1940 comic book panels of Superman punching Japanese people and saying, take that, Jap, or whatever.
Did that actually happen?
Yeah, it actually happened. And I know that because I used to read a lot of Cracked.com, and Sean Baby is one of the writers there, and he would say, he would compile these lists of, these are the craziest Superman comic books I could find.
Oh, wow. And
some of that stuff was in there. He also one time gaslit Lois Lane by creating a robotic him to prove that he wasn't Clark Kent. So, I mean, pretty messed up history.
If you want to comment, and maybe you're more of an expert on this, you're welcome to join us at 603-283-6160. Here's a comment from the current writer of the series, Tom Taylor. He said this, quote, "The idea of replacing Clark Kent with another straight white savior felt like a missed opportunity."
But he's not white. He's Kryptonian. He's not even human.
I forgot about that, yeah.
He said that a, quote, new Superman had to have new fights, real-world problems, that he could stand up to as one of the most powerful people in the world. It just doesn't sound
What's the real problem about gay people, though? I mean, this is the West. There's no issue with gay people to be found.
It's totally signaling, right? This is all about woke signaling, virtue signaling to whoever it is they think is going to be reading this. And obviously there will be people who go out to buy this. This is going to attract a certain audience, and that's clearly who they're going for. But is this more likely to ostracize a certain segment of an audience than the things that you gave examples of? Like when a country's in a world war, a lot of people get behind that. I'm not saying I support it. We're against wars here on Free Talk Live, but I bet you a warmongering Superman would have been more popular than this one would have. More coming up. It's Free Talk Live.
Breaking weather news. Belize is sunny and around 82 degrees every day this week.
What's the forecast for your life? If current politics and economic prospects are cramping your freedom, escape to the tropics. ECI Development has affordable second homes for you to own or rent in Belize and other tropical countries. Places with stable governments and growing economies. Secure your freedom now. To find out more, send an email to ftl@ecidevelopment.com.
After a devastating war, the alien visitors were driven back, and their willing human collaborators were left behind to face the music. When Emma Jean Anderson's ex-lover springs her from prison, Nathan Foster and his 14-year-old nephew Ben are tasked with bringing the pair to justice. An easy enough job until they discover something is inside Emma Jean, and the fate of the planet hangs in the balance. The Family Business by Mike Coopery from BaneBooks.com.
Are you tired of governments around the world killing innocent people? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin is money that cannot be inflated or controlled by any state. By continuing to use their money, you're perpetuating the killing. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available to you now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. It's Bitcoin.com. Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
Free Talk Live, the show where anyone can call about whatever they want. And we do mean anyone.
No, I can understand the time cue, but what I know is wiser than anything else. Like God created one day, I've created 4 simultaneous days in one rotation of Earth.
At what point did you become the wisest human, Gene Ray?
Well, I've learned everything. When you know everything, there's nothing to know.
Okay, well, now, you said you're getting ready to write a book on it. When can we expect to see it?
No, I don't have a publisher yet. A lot of morning touch it, and so...
you touch it in the morning?
Well, sometimes, not much.
Yeah. How old are you, Dr. Gene Ray?
I'm 78. Well, I told this black lady down in St. Pete, I said, when you die, you're going to come back as a white person. I said, I'm going to come back as a black person. I'm going to hate you honkies.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
There are basically 2 types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Do you appreciate what we do? Help us advertise, market, and promote for just $5 a month at amp.freetalklive.com.
This is Free Talk Live. The number here is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. What if Superman is actually a furry?
Oh, man.
Let's go all the way with this.
Well, hold on. Kryptonians, when they get to Earth, they're at least superior to Earth people, right?
Because they're more powerful, you mean?
Yeah, and presumably smarter, just like human beings are superior to non-human beings, at least in terms of, survivability and stuff like that. So technically, I think a Kryptonian dating a human would be a furry.
Like being a furry.
Yeah.
Because you're dating down, right?
Right.
What would be the difference, I guess? He's dating a creature that lives on this planet.
Yes, yeah.
He's so omnipotent that she might as well be a cow grazing in the field.
So weird.
Or he in this particular case, because now
or he.
Superman, the new Superman, according to DNYUZ.com, and I'm sure this is being reported everywhere, is now coming out. Now apparently it's the son of Superman, so he's like inherited the title because I guess Superman gets older.
How does that work? And why is a Kryptonian and a human able to have a child in the first place?
I don't know if they get into that. I don't know.
Oh yeah, so he's a demigod or whatever.
I mean, he's definitely not a human being.
Is being a demigod like being a demigirl? So it's kind of like sort of being a god?
I just meant,
Demigod is like a half god.
Okay.
It's like one of their parents was a god, the other was a mortal.
Yeah, like Hercules.
So the comment from Tom Taylor, who's one of the writers of the series, makes it pretty clear where they're coming from here. They got Superman going around saving high schools from shootings and combating wildfires allegedly caused by climate change. He says, the idea of replacing Clark Kent with another straight white savior felt like a missed opportunity. He said that now Superman needs real-world problems that he could stand up to as one of the most powerful people in the world. Unquote. The coming out of Superman, perhaps the most archetypal American superhero, is a notable moment, even in an age when many comics have embraced diversity and are exploring pressing social issues. Batman's sidekick Robin recently acknowledged romantic feelings for a male friend.
See, I'm not in the least upset about that one because
everyone saw that coming.
For whatever reason, the character of Robin always seemed gay to me.
Me too.
And a new Aquaman comic stars a gay black man who is positioned to become the title hero. So apparently there are similar plot threads going on in multiple DC comics here. It has been a steady evolution for an industry that has moved to censor itself in a number of ways after The Seduction of the Innocent, a 1954 book by psychiatrist Frederick Wertham, raised concerns about sex, gore, and violence and suggested a link between reading comics and juvenile delinquency. In one section, Wertham described Batman and Robin as, quote, a wish dream of two homosexuals living together, unquote. So it's definitely true that comics have come a long way, right?
Bruce Wayne never struck me as gay. Robin, sure.
The book helped inspire congressional hearings and led to the creation of the Comics Code Authority in 1956, in which the comics industry set standards on what comics could depict. The character of Batwoman...
This reminds me of Nightwish, Mortal Kombat, and the ESRB.
They actually mentioned Nightwish in here.
The Penguin always
I didn't mean
struck me as
Nightwish.
gay.
I meant Night Trap.
Oh, I'm sorry. They mentioned North Star. I thought it was Nightwish. North Star, who's apparently a Marvel hero who came out in 1992. So this isn't the first time something like this had happened, but it's certainly the first big one, right? Like Superman is as big as it gets as far as comic book characters are concerned. I don't know. There's more sort of history here about the comic books and what they, did and didn't allow and so on and so forth, but... I can't tell you that this is going to make me want to pick up a Superman comic, but then again, no plot line would ever make me want to pick up a Superman comic because I just don't care about
I can't say I have that much of a strong opinion because of the fact that I don't watch or read comic books or comic movies, but I think the most annoying thing about this to me personally is, well, most of my gay friends are either from Texas or they're libertarians, so I've heard the thought a lot among them that they're tired of people just acting like they have to be Democrats, basically. Why does he have to be a Democrat?
Why does he have to be a woke gay?
Yeah, why does he have to be a woke gay? I think that's so annoying.
Well, because the author is woke, and quite
clearly.
Possibly a woke gay.
Could very well be.
But I forgot the point I was going to make.
Well, they're going to be
sucks.
sharing a kiss coming soon in a story that will be published next month. And that's, in this week, readers will discover that one of their characters has special abilities, whatever that means.
So there are certainly plot lines that could cause me to be interested in a Superman comic book. I can't think of any off the top of my head. But I'm sure there's something that could interest me. But once I heard that he was going around fighting fires caused by climate change, my interest level in ever reading one of these dropped to 0.
There was one storyline I remember years ago. Mark Edge, who's one of our previous regular hosts, hasn't been on in a while, and I'm not technically allowed to talk to him under the insane bail conditions I'm under. But he's one of these huge Marvel.
He's into it, man.
He's into the Marvel, I think, specifically comics and movies and all that. And I remember
he likes Captain America.
Yeah, and I remember he talked about them. There was some plot line years ago where I think it was during the whole terrorism thing that the Marvel heroes were told they had to take sides, or they took sides, and one side joined the government in totally cracking down on freedoms, and the other side fought the government or something like that. So that sounded like kind of an interesting plot line. I think it was called Civil War.
Oh, that was the movie.
I don't know if they made a movie
Captain America,
out of it.
Civil War. Yeah,
I think it was based on a
That's exactly
comic,
what
though.
it was about.
But I think it was actually based on a comic series originally. And so that sounded kind of interesting to me, but again, I just don't care about superhero comics at all. So
the movie was pretty good if you ever get bored.
The only one of those I ever saw was Batman versus Superman, and it was stupid.
Yeah,
I never saw that.
So the number, if you want to join us here, 603-283-6160. You can weigh in, especially if you're like a super fan, right? Like if you're one of these. I think the most relevant comment on this would be from somebody who's always been a Superman fanatic, right? Like what is this? Because there's obviously people who are just growing up, or they're going to get into comics for the first time because of this, or they're just happen to be getting into comics right around now. But what about the person who's been following Superman for a decade or 2 decades or 4 decades or, half a century? How do you feel about this particular plot twist? And does it feel natural or does it feel really forced?
I mean, it feels really forced. They could have just given Superman a boyfriend and just that's just been it. Like, hey, let me introduce you to my boyfriend. And then next panel, they go off to do something else. To make this big of a deal out of it, it's just pointless. That's their plot, is that he's gay.
Yeah, and another thing about it is I don't think it's that interesting to fight wildfires because actually one of my friends who happens to be lesbian works for BLM, and she's always going out.
The Bureau of Land Management.
Yeah, in Utah, and she goes out to the fires, and I'm always like, oh my God, did you have to like get fire training? Do you go put out the fires? And she said, no, we like sit there and we watch them until they go out, and we like take notes on it. Is that what he's gonna be doing?
I don't know. Maybe he used some sort of Superman foam.
Well, he does
or
have
whatever.
ice breath or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what powers he's got. The number 603-283-6160. That's the number that allows you to join us here to bring up whatever you want. We should talk about Freedom Day coming up because this is a big, momentous occasion. Finally, the people of New South Wales are going to be allowed freedoms back. We'll explain which ones coming up.
If you want to bring more liberty into your community, there's something you should see. Intercoin, the movement you might want to join. If you like Bitcoin, break through. It's true. It's truly something new. If you'd like to see real prosperity, start your own currency, boost the economy. Intercoin, the movement you might want to join. If you like Bitcoin, its impact's hard to overstate, results you can appreciate. If you're tired of relying on the state, want to make your own community great, homelessness and hunger to eliminate, let the wealth accumulate. Don't wait for the growth rate to accelerate. Go to intercoin.org and get the coins for yourself.
From Feature Story News in San Francisco, I'm Ira Spitzer. The Biden administration has announced that 32 countries have pledged to reduce methane emissions, a key driver of global warming. The pledge, developed with the European Union, commits to cut emissions from methane 30% by the year 2030. It comes ahead of next month's UN climate conference in Glasgow, Scotland. However, the 4 heaviest emitters of methane, China, India, Russia, and Brazil, have not signed on. U.S. pharmaceutical company Merck is seeking emergency use authorization for an antiviral COVID-19 treatment. It would be the first oral drug approved for use against the virus. FSN's Sarah Walton reports from New York.
Merck says its drug molnupiravir is for use by adults with COVID-19 who are at risk of developing serious symptoms. It's applied for emergency use authorization from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration after a study of more than 700 patients showed the capsules reduced the risk of hospitalization or death by approximately 50%, although the data has not yet been peer-reviewed or published. The company says it expects to produce 10 million courses of the treatment by the end of this year. Sarah Walton, New York.
Germany has stopped offering free COVID-19 tests, with state leaders saying the availability of vaccines means it's unnecessary for taxpayers to continue to fund the free testing program. From Berlin, FSN's Trent Murray reports.
The new rules mean people in Germany will have to pay for rapid COVID-19 tests themselves, though there are exceptions for people who cannot be vaccinated, as well as for children under 12. The tests had previously been offered for free across Germany since the beginning of March, but Chancellor Angela Merkel and Germany's state premiers have agreed to the new move because of the availability of vaccinations to all citizens, with leaders saying it's unfair for taxpayers to continue to subsidise the tests. 65.3% of the German population have received both of their vaccine doses, while 68.5% have received at least one. Trent Murray, Berlin.
At least 8 people have been killed and several others abducted in a raid carried out by armed men in the east of the Democratic Republic of Congo. FSN's Chris Ochamringa reports from Kinshasa.
Congolese authorities say a group of armed men attacked Mangazi village in eastern DRC on Sunday. The fighters burnt houses, abducted several residents, and killed others. The Congolese army has blamed the attack on a rebel group called the Allied Democratic Forces, an Islamist extremist group. The DRC president declared a state of siege in North Kivu and Ituri province in May this year in a bid to end all rebel activities in the east of the country. But the attacks have continued. The Congolese army and the police have replaced all civilian authorities in the 2 provinces racked by conflict.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
This is Free Talk Live. Of course, you can join us. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Free Talk Live is brought to you by Bitcoin.com. You can go there and get the basics about Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. Learn about cryptocurrency at Bitcoin.com. Just click Get Started right there at the top of the page. And then if you're limited on time, you can spend all of 3 or so minutes on the first introductory video there. If you want to dig in deeper, obviously there are resources there over at Bitcoin.com for you to do that. But at the very least, spend 3 minutes and get the basics down about crypto like Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash at Bitcoin.com. Also at Bitcoin.com, their news site with the headlines updated every single day from around the planet. The world of cryptocurrency is a deep, deep world, and there's always interesting stuff going on. Check out their news site over at news.bitcoin.com. Ian, Bonnie, and Aria in the studio here tonight. Of course, you can bring up anything you want to discuss. And a story we've been following here pretty closely over the last few months, especially, has been what's been going on in Australia. A couple of their states, specifically New South Wales and I believe Victoria is the other one, where they've had the most.
That's where Melbourne is, right?
Yeah, I think so. That's where they've had the most restrictions. I mean, compared to a lot of the world, honestly, like very severe lockdowns have been going on.
I mean, China and North Korea may be a little bit worse,
North Korea
but
probably,
not by a wide margin.
Did North Korea do like COVID measures?
We don't really know what they did.
Yeah, North Korea is like a prison kingdom, and they don't really tell you the truth about anything because it's all state-run media that comes out of there. So who knows what they've been doing in North Korea.
I just didn't really think about it.
But in Sydney, there have been some pretty serious lockdowns. Now, it is important to remember they just got out of winter. It's now entering springtime there as we're entering fall down in that area. So it's likely we're going to see some similar restrictions in this particular part of the world as things start to get colder and the flu season kicks in and they start to pretend like the flu is COVID again. And
I don't expect it in the United States, to be honest.
You don't think so?
No, because I went to Louder Than Life and there was something like 40,000 people there. And if all the propaganda is true, right, we're not out of the pandemic.
Nope.
America's just stopped giving a crap about it.
Did they, though?
There were 40,000 people there.
And when I went to Texas, there are some people wearing masks, but I'd say more people were not wearing masks and just walking around. And it was completely like, I don't know, like I was telling somebody the other night, like there are way too many people in San Antonio. There's just people all over each other everywhere you go. Nobody's like, 6 feet.
6 foot away.
I drove through Vermont and New York and Pennsylvania, and I didn't see a single person wearing a mask.
Wow. I hope you're right, Aria. I really do. But here's what's going on over in Australia. According to Reuters, Sydney's cafes, gyms, and restaurants welcomed back fully vaccinated customers on Monday after nearly 4 months of lockdown, as Australia aims to begin living with the coronavirus and gradually reopen with high rates of inoculation. And we had shared with you previously that the Sydney government had been saying that they were going to reopen when they hit 70% of the population that was vaccinated, so-called fully vaccinated. So now they're claiming...
Which is 2 shots or 3 shots for them?
I don't know.
In Israel, it's 3 shots now.
Yeah, they keep on changing the goalposts or moving the goalposts on that one.
Well, I did not hear that about Israel.
Actually, isn't Israel up to the 4th?
I don't know.
Okay.
The last I heard it was 3, but I never looked to see if they had. I don't look for news on Israel.
Yeah, me neither.
It just sometimes comes into my field of vision.
But then I just want to play for you what the news media is saying, because they're literally promoting this as Freedom Day in New South Wales, and I can give you more from the media in just a moment. But I want to play the television media and how they're presenting this Freedom Day, because remember, it's only vaccinated people that are going to be allowed out. It's only vaccinated people that get their so-called Freedom Day. And what exactly
isn't that like literally apartheid?
Well, they're not killing. Were they killing people officially in apartheid? Or
I don't think so.
Yeah,
not officially.
It's definitely a segregated society. I mean, that is absolutely what's happening there. But even that said, the vaccinated ain't going to be that free for them either. Here's what they get, according to, let's see, which newscast is this? Sunrise, wherever the hell that is in Australia. Here is the clip from Elsie Nicole on Twitter.
There's plenty of restrictions easing for the fully vaccinated. Masks are no longer required outdoors. 10 adults can now gather at a home, while 30 can gather.
Wow! So if you've got a vaccine, because remember, if you're unvaccinated in New South Wales, you are still on lockdown.
Did he say 10 adults can now gather at a home?
That's what he said.
God,
he also said you don't have to wear a mask outdoors.
Yeah, this is what's being called Freedom Day. Literally, it's the headline on this graphic that they have with all the points on it. New South Wales Freedom Day.
You have the freedom to gather with only 9 other people.
Correct. Indoors. Outdoors, they'll let you do 30.
Outdoors. Visiting aged care homes is now permitted. Retail and hospitality return with a 1 person per square 4 metre rule.
All right. Now let's do the math.
meters.
Was it 3 feet per meter?
Yeah, 3 feet per meter.
Yeah.
4 square meters times
That's 12
3.
feet.
That's 12 square feet.
So another 6 feet.
Good Lord, that's extreme.
So every retail establishment has a certain number of square footage, and so they will have a specific limit. Remember when the Walmart had the guy out front with the clipboard, and he was,
I saw them counting. Did they ever actually enforce that?
I don't think that our Walmart ever got to the point where we were past whatever their limit was.
In San Antonio, they had a cop that would stand there and just be like, evening, like a greeter, and I told one, don't talk to me.
This was a year ago?
Yeah, when I still live there.
So, but did you ever have to get kept out of the store because there
it seemed
too many
more like
people?
he was being a greeter than counting, but I noticed it all the time when I would go into Walmarts during COVID. It's like they were acting like, a greeter. Like they're just standing out there threatening.
Yeah, well, that's what they were. There wasn't a cop in this particular case in Keene. It was just a Walmart employee with a yellow vest on and a clipboard. And presumably if the store got above the number, then they would limit access. But I don't think that ever happened here in New Hampshire, and I don't know if the limits were different in New Hampshire than they were in other parts of the country. I suspect they were. But let's go on with all the freedoms that you have. So again, if you are vaccinated in New South Wales, you can finally go shopping again, but the stores will only allow 1 person per 4 square meters or 12 square feet.
For hospitality, that becomes 1 person per 2 square metres outside. Seated meals...
And 1 person, I might have missed it. It's also 1 person per 4 square meters inside hospitality. So both shopping and eating at a restaurant, only 1 person for every 12 square feet will be allowed to eat indoors at a restaurant in New South Wales.
If it's 4 square meters, isn't that 4 times 3? Oh, wait, that's 12. Yeah.
Correct. So 12 square feet. So
wow.
What is the average square footage of a restaurant? Because that doesn't sound, 12 feet of space between you and the next table means you can maybe have 6 tables filled in your average size restaurant.
I'm just trying to think, I'm thinking about not a non-average size restaurant. Like here in Keene, one of our favorite hangouts is the little pho noodle place in downtown Keene called Pho Keene Great.
Yeah, that'd be 2 people.
Yeah, there's literally 20-foot width of the whole restaurant. The entire place is very, very small. So there's hardly anybody going to be allowed to eat in a lot of these places. Going on.
Must be booked and kept at 20 people.
Seated meals must be booked and kept at 20 people. So meaning you have to get reservations, and there's no large parties going to be allowed.
COVID doesn't attack you if you have a reservation.
While drinking is permitted only outside.
Okay, hold on. You missed that one.
Dalton capped at 20 people. Standing while drinking is permitted only outside.
Freedom Day, yeah! Now you can stand up while you're drinking, but only outside.
God.
I can't believe you can understand everything this guy says, to be honest.
Out at the bar. If you're actually indoors at a bar, the person, quote unquote, next to you is going to be 12 feet down the bar, right? Or maybe 6 feet, or depending on square footage, right? Depends on how you do, because if it was 1 foot by 12 foot, then it would be 12 feet down. But if it were 6,
it's very confusing.
Is it only by squares?
I suspect they're just calculating maximum capacity.
Yeah, that's probably it. And I suspect they're not letting anyone sit next to you. More coming up here. It's Free Talk Live.
Hi, I'm Derek J. I don't want a politician to represent me. To me, government is the idea that one group of people can coerce everyone to comply with an edict or face increasing punishments up to and including death. Despite perhaps the most noble of intentions, the best government services are a far cry from what could be provided for by voluntary interactions. Besides, the people who call themselves the government wage wars and put peaceful people in jail for crimes involving no victims. If Starbucks used some of its money to drop bombs, I wouldn't shop there. So why would I support the American empire? The empire does not require my consent.
Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree. Watch it for free and order the Director's Cut DVD at victimlesscrimespree.com. That's victimlesscrimespree.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm. On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
Your amp will directly change more lives by getting Free Talk Live in front of people looking for talk radio online and on the air. When you amp Free Talk Live, you get perks like access to the AMP-only Facebook group and AMP podcast. Visit amp.freetalklive.com. Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get one free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
you can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. You can join us here. We're talking about the so-called Freedom Day in New South Wales, Australia, a part of the world that's been locked down for something like 100+ days, basically the entirety of what was their wintertime. And if you are unvaccinated, ain't no Freedom Day for you. Of course, it's not really much of a Freedom Day for the vaccinated, as we're going through the list of things that they're now going to be allowed by their government to do.
I want to remind people, though, that when you hear lockdown, if you're an American or a European or something like that, you're probably thinking just, the bars were closed or the restaurants were closed or something like that, which is what we saw here. New South Wales was actually in like a prison lockdown, 23 hours a day, required to be in their homes, getting text messages from the government requiring to send them a picture of them in their home within 15 minutes. Otherwise, police would have showed up and given an hour of yard time per day.
Yeah, people were literally being arrested for walking their dog. You're not allowed to go outside beyond your own home or whatever. You're not allowed to go through the park. You're not allowed to be without a mask. People have been arrested for leaving the house without permission.
Not allowed to be a certain amount of miles away from your home.
Yeah, I think it was 5 meters or 5 kilometers or something like that. Not meters, but 5 kilometers outside of your home. You couldn't even be doing that for shopping purposes or anything at all. They arrested guys for trying to smuggle KFC from a nearby city into, I think it was actually, that wasn't New South Wales, I think that was Victoria, but still
How are you supposed to get food?
I think you were allowed to go to the grocery store, and I think that was about it.
Even if you're unvaccinated?
I don't know. That's a good question. I presume so, but I don't want to say for sure on that. Right now they're saying unvaccinated people must stay at their homes and continue lockdown through December 1st. So this so-called Freedom Day is only for the vaccinated. And I presume that means that all these people are going to have some sort of vaccine passport that they're going to have to go and show around at all the various different businesses that are now allowed to be reopened, but under some severe restrictions, as we're sharing with you. But I also want to share with you about Intercoin, which is an organization that can help businesses and organizations that you might have launch your own cryptocurrency or raise money using your own token. And now intercoin.org has launched worldwide. If there's a token you want to launch or an app you want to build, go to intercoin.org, enter your email, and the team will get in touch and learn about your needs. And while you're there, if you want, you can get some Intercoin investor tokens for yourself. So head over to intercoin.org. So I'm going to continue with this clip here. Somebody recorded this off their television. It was a news, one of these Australian news programs, explaining to you what is this so-called Freedom Day is all about. Now, I keep saying so-called because this is total BS to call something like this Freedom Day. It's just they're allowing you out of your cell a little bit more than they did over the last 3 months, and they're calling this Freedom Day. They're not being ironic about this or anything. They literally are trying to get people to believe that this is it. This is the big moment you've been waiting for. You can finally go to retail, one person for every 12 square feet. You can go into a restaurant, one person for every 12 square feet.
Yeah, and apparently the average square footage throughout the world for like a McDonald's is 4,000 square feet. So that immediately reduces their capacity to like 30 maximum people. And that has to include the staff
the kitchen
as well.
And all that, yeah.
So,
right, is it square foot for the entire building or square foot for the area where the customers are? Because if you think about a McDonald's, only some of that area is for the customers.
Like half of it.
Yeah, and then the rest of it's the kitchen, and the bathrooms or whatever.
It'd be interesting to see how it's written, but, McDonald's aside, that's probably bigger than your average restaurant elsewhere.
Let me go to your the rest of this here. It's about a minute long. We're about through half of it here.
While drinking is permitted only outside. Hair and nail salons are open, but only for 5 people at a time. Gyms are back with 1 person per 4 square metres and up to 20 people for classes. Indoor swimming pools also open. 100 guests can now attend funerals and weddings. Places of worship can have 1 person per 4 square metres, but no singing.
No singing in church.
No singing.
They're 12 freaking feet apart, dude. How far does he think? How joyously are these people trying to sing? If there's any chance of them spitting on each other from that distance, or they could just hold a hymn in front of their faces or whatever.
Yeah, it's crazy.
The 1 person per 4 square metre rule also applies to stadiums, theme parks, and the same for cinemas with a 75% cap. And for those itching to travel, caravan parks and camping grounds reopen. Holidaying is permitted in the regions between local government areas, but Greater Sydney remains in a bubble.
I have a question. Was it as empty in the theaters when you guys went to see Free Man as it was when we went to go see Gremlins?
It's always empty in those theaters before and after COVID. So I don't think it's any less empty than it was pre-COVID.
Yeah, but was it more empty for Free Man? I mean, just as empty for Free Man? Because there's like 2 other people other than us in Gremlins.
You're talking about Free Guy. Free Guy might have had a few more people, but not many.
I went and saw one of the Harry Potter movies, the Beast of some Fantastical Beast. I don't remember what it was called, and obviously I don't remember much about the movie because it wasn't very good. But it was like me, the guy I went with, and maybe 3 other people, which is about the same as there was for Free Guy.
Yeah, I think Free Guy might have had like 8 or 10 people or something like that, and the Gremlins that we went to, including us, probably had like 6.
Yeah.
I think.
Did you make it to Candyman Sunday?
No, I wasn't going to go without you.
Oh.
So 603-283-6160. There's the television rundown of what Freedom Day is all about. And after all of those statements about these really lame-o, quote-unquote, freedoms that people are now regaining.
Dude, they were really lame.
Yeah, and remember, that's only for vaccinated people. So unvaccinated people, you're still not allowed to leave your house, according to this.
They get to redefine freedom now because the Australians completely gave up any freedom. So now, they get to redefine it. The Australians already gave it up because they were like, yeah, we're getting rid of guns and we're all behind this. Most Australians completely agreed with getting rid of guns because of like one school shooting in the, I think, early aughts, if not the 90s.
So the last thing he said, though, I'm curious about because he said, and Greater Sydney remains in a bubble.
Bubble.
Means they're locked down and that you can't leave or travel there. That's what I understood it to mean.
So here's an explainer story from 9 News in Australia. Headline: Can I leave my 5-kilometre bubble now that New South Wales restrictions have lifted? If you live in Sydney, your world has become a lot bigger. The same goes for regional New South Wales residents, but on a much larger scale. No more watching on in envy as friends in other parts of the city hit the beach, and you walk the same old paths and parks day after day for months on end.
That's like me and your life, Zian.
The 5-kilometre rule is gone, and your new pandemic playground stretches all the way from the Central Coast down to wherever the hell they talk
That's a
about.
Disgusting term.
Yeah, the pandemic playground. But yet it's not
It would be a good name for a dystopian novel about all of this nonsense, though.
But it's not yet a travel free-for-all. There's an invisible wall separating Greater Sydney from the rest of New South Wales, which may only be crossed in a few exceptional circumstances. Can I leave my 5-kilometre bubble today? Yes. All Sydney-siders can explore the harbour city and its broader surrounds to their heart's content. The same applies for unvaccinated residents, but they won't be able to enter pubs and cafes. Okay, earlier it was saying you had to stay home. Regional residents can even go further beyond the old 10-kilometre What can I do in terms of travel? With all this new travel freedom, you might want to save some petrol. So it's a good thing carpooling is allowed, as long as you've had 2 jabs. Caravan parks and camping grounds are also open. And
so wait a minute. Doesn't not carpooling destroy the environment?
Yep.
So they would rather destroy the environment than...
Oh, clearly. Haven't you seen all the masks all over the ground?
And all the waiting in, oh my God, the Starbucks parking lot over here?
They got me at a bank up here during the pandemic. It just lines of cars, all just idling because it's the middle of winter. It's like, man, really? All of this is just destroying the environment if what you say is to be true. And you're promoting that. You're requiring that instead of just opening up your lobby and risking having a cold for a few days.
Yeah, we saw that literally just 2 days ago when we went on a walk by Ashuela, because there you can see Starbucks from there. Like, they don't have their lobbies open, right?
I don't know.
That may be because of staff, though. A lot of places don't have lobbies open because there's just no one to stand up front to take the order.
Yeah.
It keeps it more orderly if you just have one line of customers coming through the drive-through. Then you can just keep it simple.
Like a friend of mine works at a McDonald's, and they have usually 2 people working. Her taking the orders and, handling the customer, and 1 person in the kitchen.
They do say here regarding unvaccinated people that, quote, while most new freedoms appear likely to remain off limits for unvaccinated residents until December, local travel limits have been removed for everyone. So apparently, if you're unvaccinated, you can now travel outside of the, quote, bubble to go shopping for only like the essential things, but then you have to go home and you won't be allowed to go and do pretty much anything else this time because it's freedom in Australia. All right, more coming up here. Hour 3 is next. You can join us. This is Free Talk Live. You got an Australia story coming up, Aria.
Breaking weather news. Belize is sunny and around 82 degrees every day this week.
What's the forecast for your life? If current politics and economic prospects are cramping your freedom, escape to the tropics. ECI Development has affordable second homes for you to own or rent in Belize and other tropical countries. Places with stable governments and growing economies. Secure your freedom now. To find out more, send an email to ftl@ecidevelopment.com.
When a lunar observatory detects a radio broadcast originating from Proxima Centauri, the nations of Earth discover their first contact with an alien race may also be their last. With the Proximans facing an extinction-level disaster, Earth must choose between sending a ship on a multi-year journey or allowing nature to take its course. Saving Proxima, a hard science fiction thriller by Travis S. Taylor and Les Johnson from BaneBooks.com.
The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in San Francisco, I'm Ira Spitzer. An Afghan interpreter who helped rescue then-Senator Joe Biden in Afghanistan in 2008 has escaped from the country. There are still tens of thousands of Afghans looking to leave Afghanistan after working with the U.S. in some capacity over the past 2 decades. U.S. correspondent Rachel Silverman has more on that story.
Interpreter Ahmad Khalili was part of a team that was sent to help then-Senators Joe Biden, John Kerry, and Chuck Hagel in 2008. The 2 helicopters transporting them had been forced to land in an Afghan valley vulnerable to Taliban attack during a blinding snowstorm. After the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan in August, Khalili and his family made desperate pleas for help on U.S. news programs. He said when he and his family tried to reach the airport after the fall of Kabul, U.S. forces told him that only he could go past the checkpoint. The State Department confirms Khalili, his wife, and 4 children, with extensive and high-level engagement and support from the U.S. government, have moved more than 600 miles to cross the Afghanistan-Pakistan border. Rachel Silverman, Oakland, California.
Several beaches in Southern California have reopened as cleanup efforts continue following a large oil spill last week caused by a broken pipeline. California's Attorney General Rob Bonta says the state is opening an investigation into what caused the disaster, during which as much as 450,000 liters of oil may have leaked into the Pacific Ocean.
We are focused on the immediate response to the spill, but we also wanted to know how this happened, who knew, and when.
Oil drilling is banned in California waters, but the spill happened about 27 kilometers off the coast in federal waters. California Senator Alex Padilla says he's calling for a ban on oil drilling and an investigation from Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg.
Many of us, myself included, have been calling for a ban on offshore oil drilling in federal waters for a long time now. This is just the most recent reminder of why it's necessary and why it's urgent.
U.S. stocks started the week with a slide. It comes amid rising oil prices and the upcoming third quarter earnings results season. FSN's Sarah Walton reports from New York.
All three major indices ended the day in the red, with the Dow down 250 points, or 0.7%, despite being up nearly 200 points earlier in the day. The S&P and the Nasdaq closed 0.7% and 0.6% lower, respectively. It comes as U.S. crude oil jumped 2.5% on Monday to more than $81 a barrel, the highest since 2014. Analysts say increasing vaccination rates are driving up demand for fuel across the country. Sarah Walton, New York.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. The annual autumn meetings of the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank take place this week, and once again, Washington, home to their headquarters, is serving as host. But this year, it's a Washington questioning its own ability to lead on the world stage. Just last week, the country narrowly avoided defaulting on its debts. The week before that, it narrowly avoided a government shutdown. And that leaves some US analysts of international affairs worried about the trajectory their own nation is on.
There are great concerns around the world about the competence of the United States.
Jim Lindsay is with the New York-based Council on Foreign Relations and says the US will be hard-pressed to lead by example at this week's meetings.
The Biden administration is fond of talking about how America is back. But I think for people in many foreign capitals, the America that is back is not one that they recognize. It is no longer the can-do country. And they worry that the United States is a country that has effectively become dysfunctional. The president says he is going to do something on behalf of the United States. Can he actually follow through?
The president insists American credibility is returning, but week after week he's battling to deliver on his own priorities. And with Donald Trump hitting the campaign trail only this past weekend, some international leaders may be keeping a close eye over the president's shoulder. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
The main news again. An Afghan interpreter who helped rescue Joe Biden in Afghanistan in 2008 escapes from the country. California opens an investigation into what caused a large oil spill in the Pacific Ocean. And U.S. stocks start the week down amid rising oil prices ahead of the upcoming third quarter earnings results season. That is the latest feature story news. Ira Spitzer reporting.
It's the Onion Radio News. An area man doesn't know what to do with all the extra ketchup packets. This is Doyle Redland reporting. After finishing his Big Bacon Classic combo, Erie, Pennsylvania resident and Wendy's patron Don Turnby, 38, expressed uncertainty today regarding what to do with all the extra ketchup packets. Turnby had asked for extra ketchup upon placing his order for a ketchup-necessitating Biggie fries.
Well, I knew it was too many ketchups because I usually only need 3 or 4 for my Biggie fries, but I just took them anyway.
At his nearby home, the Turnby pantry is crammed with hundreds of other restaurant condiments, including single-serving packets of Taco Bell mild sauce, Arby's horsey sauce, soy sauce, McDonald's Chicken McNuggets hot mustard sauce, pats of shed spread country crock from Ponderosa Steakhouse, and a selection of Smucker's jellies and jams from several area diners. Doyle Redland for the Onion Radio News, online at theonion.com.
Free Talk Live.
This is Free Talk Live. You can bring up anything you want here. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Joining you here in the studio, you've got Ian.
And Bonnie.
And Aria.
And, of course, you can bring up whatever you want. That is the point here of the program. We were just talking about so-called Freedom Day in Sydney and New South Wales, Australia, that is not anything close to freedom. It's little niblets of abilities.
It's what you would expect from Australia at this point in their trajectory toward tyranny.
Yeah.
It's the freedom that Ariana Grande and James Corden were singing about.
What was that?
Remember when they had that thing praising Fauci, that music video where they praised Fauci and thanked him for getting their freedom back?
Oh, yeah, that's right, where they're dancing all around New York City streets. And,
only if you have the vaccine.
Right.
That was a lyric.
And that's what this was. This is about in Sydney.
That sucks. I kind of liked Ariana Grande.
I know. I liked her up until then.
Yeah, she's totally like a tool for the state, basically.
I'm not super surprised.
Yeah, her and Lady Gaga went and performed Rain on Me at the VMAs in 2020 in like bejeweled masks. So that was annoying too. Like
they sang behind masks?
I just don't believe that you're singing at that point. Like, and it sounds exactly like, like somebody singing into a microphone. I just don't believe that.
Were they required to be masked?
Probably, but could have
No,
gone.
Of course not. How could they have been? I mean, they're the elite.
True.
And plus, like on stage, I don't think every single person did it on stage. I think they were being extra.
I mean, you're also not near anyone when you're on stage. I've seen a fair number of musical acts, and there's definitely 6 feet between every performer on the stage.
And
for sure.
I know Lady Gaga can sing, but like if I went to go see her, I'd want her to actually be singing,
Yeah, and normally, like, it is a question when you're looking at a performance, a live performance of, is this person lip syncing? I mean, that's always been a question.
Sure.
Milli Vanilli, of course, were infamous in the 1990s for going around and lip syncing constantly, and they ended up getting caught for it, and it was a huge embarrassment.
I didn't think there was any of that going on at Louder Than Life until I saw the news about the Judas Priest guitarist having his aorta rupture while he was playing a solo.
Oh God!
While you were there?
Yeah, apparently, and I didn't even notice. Right? So I mean. Obviously, no one was faking anything, but his aorta ruptured in his heart, and blood was just leaking into his chest cavity. And the dude,
and he kept playing.
He never missed a note, man. It is so hardcore. So
he's a singer?
No, he's a guitar player.
Wow.
The most metal thing I've ever heard of. And you compare that to Stained and Aaron Lewis, who was so hammered and cared so little that he could barely stand up.
Oh my God!
And this dude played through a ruptured aorta.
I wonder if that's because he was vaccinated.
Who's that, Aaron Lewis?
Yeah.
Oh, no,
the other guy.
Aaron Lewis is probably anti-vax.
I think she means the guitarist.
Oh.
You mean
the one whose aorta broke.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's vaccinated or not.
I wonder if the vaccine broke his aorta.
But clearly the elites don't have to wear the masks. I mean, I'm sure you've seen the photos from the various different elite gatherings at the Met Gala, where all the help, every waiter and every person who's the busboy.
Wasn't there a Hulu series about this called A Handmaid's Tale?
I haven't seen that.
That was pretty much about
That's what they were watching today.
The underclass having to wear masks and stuff.
Who was watching this?
Whenever we went to go see our neighbors and talk to them, they were watching that. Yeah, I watched part of that, but it was 2018. And I don't remember them having to wear masks for some reason. But only the underlings who were still fertile. Everybody else was infertile in this future film or future story. It's a show, not a film. Have to have babies, and they're servants, kind of. They're handmaids.
I've never seen it. I mean, it sounds intriguing from what I've heard, but I don't have the time to invest in a multi-season show.
It's one of those things where you're all depressed whenever you see it. So it has to be something you want to
you really have to watch.
Invest emotions into. Yeah.
So you can comment on, Sydney and what's going on there. I've got more details, but we're going to move to a different Australian story. Aria, you had a pretty wild-sounding headline. What's going on?
I always like it when, a misplaced comma or a missed apostrophe or something like that affects the law, because these things are important. Grammar has its own rules and stuff like that. The Oxford comma made headlines a few years ago over something, and this article actually mentions that. But this is a missing apostrophe that a guy made in a Facebook post has landed him in a defamation court in Australia.
Whoa.
A missing apostrophe could cost a real estate agent tens of thousands of dollars after an Australian court ruled a defamation case against him could proceed over a Facebook post. The man in question, Anthony Zadrovich, who is based on the Central Coast in New South Wales, go figure, posted the message on October the 22nd, presumably last year, accusing his former workplace of not paying retirement funds to all of its workers. Less than 12 hours later, he deleted the post, but it was already too late. The owner, Mr. Gann, became aware of the message and filed a defamation claim against Mr. Zadrovich, setting off a tussle over a punctuation mark no larger than a pinhead in a country that has earned a reputation as the defamation capital of the world.
Really?
But they have the most defamation suits?
Apparently.
Presumably. It doesn't really say what that means. In matters of punctuation, social media is the Wild West. In some corners of the internet, careless grammar is highly tolerated, even a badge of honor. In legal matters, however, disputed punctuation can cost millions. I mean, other than your random grammar Nazi, I feel like incorrect grammar is pretty well tolerated across the entire internet. Anyway, one recent case in Portland, Maine, on overtime for truckers hinged on the lack of an Oxford comma in state law. Now, that's, for those who don't know what that is, the way we learned to write in school is if you have a series of more than 3 things, you have to use a comma before the word and or but or whatever,
On
whatever
the
the conjunction is.
Or the final thing.
I never liked it.
I've always liked it because it's clear.
It's
not
consistent.
ambiguous.
I don't like it. It's useless.
It's called the Oxford comma. It's not useless. It makes things very clear, as this lawsuit here showed.
Yeah.
And English people don't like using that for whatever reason. Or attorneys don't like using that. Almost everything written in legalese doesn't use the Oxford comma for some reason. Journalists don't use it either. But it does clarify things. The case ended up settling in 2018 for $5 million, and it gained international notoriety when the United States Court of Appeals for the First Circuit ruled that the missing comma created enough uncertainty to side with the drivers. It gave grammar obsessives and those who adore the Oxford comma a chance to revel in the victory.
Lee, our other host, Peakless Mountaineer, agrees with me.
Well, there's always going to be debate about the Oxford comma.
Legal experts say the case of the missing apostrophe is far from surprising in Australia, which has a complex web of defamation laws and a history of rewarding plaintiffs large sums of money. In 2019, for example, the Oscar-winning actor Jeffrey Rush was awarded more than $2 million in his case against Rupert Murdoch's Nationwide News, which was the largest payout at a time to a single person in Australian history. That same year, a billionaire won a defamation case against a new organization that he claimed had wrongly linked him to a bribery case.
Are they going to tell us about this apostrophe at some point?
Yeah, I'm skipping stuff to get to that. According to court documents, in his defense, Mr. Zadrovich appeared to imply...
This is the current case?
Yes.
Okay.
He appeared to imply that he had meant to add an apostrophe. After all, who hasn't mangled grammar in firing off a social media post in a fit of anger? I can't imagine getting sued over a Facebook post. Australia, what are you doing? A judge in New South Wales shot down his attempts to have the case throttled on the grounds that it was trivial, but it's very much trivial, stating that the absent apostrophe could have been read to suggest, quote, a systematic pattern of conduct by Mr. Gann's agency. The difficulty for the plaintiff is the use of the word employees in the plural. To fail to pay a single employee's superannuation entitlement may be seen as unfortunate. To fail to pay some or all of them looks deliberate. So the actual tweet, which is further down, and I'm struggling to find it right now, it's basically he meant to say an employees, like employee apostrophe S. But instead, but he didn't include the apostrophe, so it included all employees. Yes.
So is employees plural EES, not IES?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
But so it looked like he was claiming the business had screwed over every single employee, but that wasn't what he intended to say.
Right, because he forgot an apostrophe.
So he's like 2 drinks down or 3 drinks in the bag and maybe a little tipsy because he's at home on lockdown and angry about something going on at work, messes this up, and the judge found against him?
Well, they haven't found against him yet, but they're allowing it to proceed.
Okay, more coming up here in moments. You can share your thoughts. Free Talk Live.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it! You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
Breaking weather news. Belize is sunny and around 82 degrees every day this week.
What's the forecast for your life? If current politics and economic prospects are cramping your freedom, escape to the tropics. ECI Development has affordable second homes for you to own or rent in Belize and other tropical countries. Places with stable governments and growing economies. Secure your freedom now. To find out more, send an email to ftl@ecidevelopment.com.
Brute force, intransigent defiance, adamantine will. These are the hallmarks of the AI tank. These gigantic machines have the firepower of an army, but they also have their own sense of honor and duty. When the world breakers arrive, battle will be joined, planets will shake, and war and peace will never be the same again. World Breakers. Stories from David Weber, Larry Correa, and more. Available August 3rd from BaneBooks.com.
The Free State Project has reached its goal of 20,000 liberty lovers who've pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Perhaps you're trying to figure out what part of New Hampshire should be your destination. If so, consider Keene. You'll find more than 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com. Keene is famous for its historic, publicity-generating activism, as well as being the liberty media capital of the world. It's home to freekeene.com, New Hampshire's destination for liberty activism, news, and opinion. For years, we've been compiling over 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com, where you'll learn about some of what's happening here and what makes Keene a great place to live. If you love liberty, you'll probably enjoy anywhere you end up in the Shire. But do your due diligence first. Please visit move.freekeene.com for the full list of over 150 reasons to move to Keene. That's move.freekeene.com. The LRN.FM social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it.
Are you tired of your taxes funding endless occupations around the world? Antiwar.com is run by people who understand that wars abroad become wars at home, wars on our freedoms. Antiwar.com is dedicated to bringing you the latest in news, views, interviews, and reviews from the top movers and shakers in the anti-occupation movement. Antiwar.com has it all, from thorough foreign policy analysis to interviews with whistleblowers who used to run the military-industrial complex. Anti-war, pro-free market. That's antiwar.com.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. The phones are open for you if you want to join us. The number 603-283-6160, whether you want to comment on so-called Freedom Day in New South Wales, Australia, or whatever happens to be on your mind. The Southwest Airlines, not quite a strike, but shutting down a huge chunk of their flights. To discuss those things tonight. And again, the number 603-283-6160. Tonight, it's Ian.
It's Bonnie.
And Arya.
And we've been covering this story about the apostrophe where, I mean, it's hard to believe we're talking about an apostrophe here, but that's what is relevant in a case in Australia where apparently there's a pretty loose defamation law that will allow for just some guy mouthing off on social media to be sued and potentially lose the case. Now, the case has not been decided yet, but what you're telling us, Arya, is that it is going to be allowed to move forward.
Yes.
And the exact tweet, do you have that pulled up? What this guy said?
He says, "Oh, Stuart Gann selling multi-million-dollar homes in Pearl Beach, but can't pay his employees superannuation. Shame on you, Stuart. 2 years and still waiting."
What's a superannuation, like a bonus?
I think it's like I have no idea.
Something Australian.
Yeah, I've never heard of
Annuation
it.
sounds like something that's yearly, but
Yeah.
super would be like more than that. Is it one word, superannuation, or two?
Yes, it's one word. So the issue is that he made it. He said his employees without an apostrophe, which means all of his employees, when he meant his employee himself with an apostrophe.
So he was talking about himself.
Yes.
It's unfortunate that it's a word that just happens to be, spelled the same way, possessive and plural, minus the apostrophe.
Of course, he could have just said mine or my superannuation. Now, I did look it up. It is a regular payment made into a fund by an employee toward a future pension.
Okay. So evidently the guy isn't paying for Zadrovich's superannuation, and he was upset about it, so he posted on Facebook, forgot an apostrophe, ended up deleting the post within 12 hours.
Not fast enough,
But
apparently.
it wasn't fast enough, and the employer, Mr. Gann, has launched a defamation lawsuit against him.
Well, in case we were wondering if this employer was a jerk,
Yeah.
Now he's proved it.
That's true.
I mean, look, sticks and stones. Really, is it going to matter if this one employee posts something that you don't like on Facebook or wherever, Twitter or wherever the hell this was posted to? Is that really going to affect your business?
We're going to ruin his life.
What if rather than deleting the post, he had edited it to add the apostrophe? Then he could have just argued, no, look, that was a mistake. I noticed it, went back and fixed it. Would that be considered defamation in Australia?
I don't know.
I don't
obviously
either.
We're not attorneys, and we certainly don't know anything about Australian law. I mean, I tend to err on the side of free speech. Now, I understand the argument of libel. You can hurt somebody by saying things about them that aren't true, that you can hurt their business or whatever. I get the arguments for that. I just don't agree with them. I think that there shouldn't be libel laws. I think that you need to toughen your skin up a little bit in this world of internet.
Dispute the libel. Right?
Yeah, well, tell the truth. To come out and say, no, this is what the truth is. This person's lying. If you even think it's worth dealing with.
Yeah, more speech, not less speech.
Correct. More speech rather than cracking down, arresting, threatening, bringing lawsuits and all this. Because, I'm sorry, look, one post on the internet. There's a billion posts on the internet. I get the concern is somebody's going to search your business name and find some angry employee talking about you. But there's no reason why the same angry employee can't go on one of, I don't know how many dozens of sort of anonymous complaint sites, which these things exist, right? Like you want to research a business.
They mentioned some of that as well.
I did it to Econolodge.
You posted something anonymously about them?
Yeah, about how horrible they were.
Where did you go? Where did you post?
It was what's it called? Indeed's ranking things where you can put a comment and everything.
Just about their business in general, or that specific hotel?
It was the business in general, which sucked. I couldn't find any way to just talk about the specific hotel, but I left a Google review. I worked for them for a few months, and they sucked.
Now, in theory, a Google review might be traceable to you.
Oh no, that wasn't anonymous.
Right. I'm saying there are anonymous websites where if you are an employee of this company and you don't want, you live in Australia, so you know that there's all these crappy laws where you can be held liable for the things that you say about what you believe to be true about an employer, or even if you don't think it's true, even if you just want to say nasty things about them, you
can be sued over a missing apostrophe in Australia.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, the smart thing to do would be to detach your identity from the comment and say, I am a 12-year-long, over a decade employee of such and such, blah, 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 and here's how they're the owner is screwing his employees, and then ploop,
maybe those aren't even legal in Australia.
But it doesn't matter because if you do it over like a, VPN, then how are they going to know? And if the site is designed towards anonymous comments, then that owner can pound his feet all he wants about all those comments, but there's ultimately nothing he can do about it.
One thing I'm wondering is, I wonder if the defendant can prove exactly how many people saw his post in the 12 hours. Like if there's a way to see that with the web, I don't know.
There might be some places like you see that with Instagram or something, where you can see who watched your thing.
There's some things that do show you how many like people viewed a story, but some things not. Like you can't see how many people viewed your picture, as far as I know. But
well, he did this on Facebook, and they don't have that mechanism there.
Well, they might not be able to, but what I was going to say was, I bet way less people actually saw the post before it was deleted than all the attention that's brought to it now.
The news article, yeah, absolutely. Had the owner not...
It's the Streisand effect in action. Right. I mean, now my interpretation of this guy is just that he's a massive jerk.
Yeah. The owner, you mean?
Yeah, who isn't paying his employee properly, and who is suing that employee over a Facebook post.
And he'd rather pay his lawyers to go after his employees in this case. But you said the article addresses these online sites?
To a degree, it mentions something about it. Judge Gibson noted that the trial could cost Mr. Zadrovich more than $180,000 and cited similar cases, including that of an Australian vet who was awarded more than $18,000 after a former client posted defamatory reviews online.
But it doesn't say it was anonymous.
No.
Yeah.
In the latest case, it was not immediately clear what kind of recourse Mr. Gant has requested from the court.
Wow.
High-profile defamation cases represent only a small fraction of the claims brought before the court each year. The courts are filled with them, evidently. I'm not surprised.
Like I mean, everybody that gets their butt hurt about something somebody said about them apparently gets so-called justice in this in that court system.
This is going to cost this guy, this Facebook post that he deleted 12 hours after posting, is going to cost this guy roughly $180,000.
Because he's going to have to pay for all the attorney's fees and everything.
Yeah. Australia's notoriously strict defamation laws have raised fears of censorship of the news media. A 2018 survey by the American Journalists Union found that almost a quarter of respondents said they'd had a news article spiked that year because of fears of defamation claims.
Well, remember, we talked about the shooting. Remember that New Zealand shooting in the mosque a couple years back?
Yeah.
We learned after that about New Zealand, and presuming Australia is kind of similar, right? Like sometimes the New England states have similar laws. The New Zealand has a very restrictive media censorship policy. Like all movies, music have to go through, like you want to come out with a CD and sell it, your band, it has to go through a censorship panel in New Zealand.
What are they censoring for?
Whatever the hell they want, I presume. Whatever's not allowed, whatever that might be. So it wouldn't surprise me if Australia had similarly restrictive rules. More coming up here. This is Free Talk Live.
Carl Watner, longtime proponent of a voluntary society, died last December. You may have seen his articles published on his website, voluntarist.com, in his newsletter, The Voluntarist, the Mises Institute, or elsewhere over the last 40 years. His newest book, I Must Speak Out, Volume 2, The Best of the Voluntarist, is now available via Liberty Under Attack Publications. This 430-page second volume spans the years of 2000 through 2020 and includes articles by Carl Watner, Hans Hermann Hoppe, Carl Hess, Benjamin Tucker, George H. Smith, Lysander Spooner, Pete Eyre, Joyce Brand, and many others. I Must Speak Out is for the newly initiated, the veteran voluntarist, or anywhere in between. Buy the book now at libertyunderattack.com/voluntarist. For more great content on building a voluntary society and for Carl's extensive archives, check out voluntarist.com.
From Feature Story News in San Francisco, I'm Ira Spitzer. An Afghan interpreter who helped rescue then-Senator Joe Biden in Afghanistan in 2008 has escaped from the country. There are still tens of thousands of Afghans looking to leave Afghanistan after working with the U.S. in some capacity over the past 2 decades. U.S. correspondent Rachel Silverman has more on that story.
Interpreter Ahmad Khalili was part of a team that was sent to help then-Senators Joe Biden, John Kerry, and Chuck Hagel in 2008. The 2 helicopters transporting them had been forced to land in an Afghan valley vulnerable to Taliban attack during a blinding snowstorm. After the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan in August, Khalili and his family made desperate pleas for help on U.S. news programs. He said when he and his family tried to reach the airport after the fall fall of Kabul, U.S. forces told him that only he could go past the checkpoint. The State Department confirms Khalili, his wife, and 4 children, with extensive and high-level engagement and support from the U.S. government, have moved more than 600 miles to cross the Afghanistan-Pakistan border. Rachel Silverman, Oakland, California.
Several beaches in Southern California have reopened as cleanup efforts continue following a large oil spill last week caused by a broken pipeline. California's Attorney General Rob Bonta says the state is opening an investigation into what caused the disaster, during which as much as 450,000 liters of oil may have leaked into the Pacific Ocean.
We are focused on the immediate response to the spill, but we also wanted to know how this happened, who knew, and when.
Oil drilling is banned in California waters, but the spill happened about 27 kilometers off the coast in federal waters. California's Senator Alex Padilla says he's calling for a ban on oil drilling and an investigation from Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg.
Many of us, myself included, have been calling for a ban on offshore oil drilling in federal waters for a long time now. This is just the most recent reminder of why it's necessary and why it's urgent.
U.S. stocks started the week with a slide. It comes amid rising oil prices and the upcoming third quarter earnings results season. FSN's Sarah Walton reports from New York.
All 3 major indices ended the day in the red, with the Dow down 250 points, or 0.7%, despite being up nearly 200 points earlier in the day. The S&P and the Nasdaq closed 0.7% and 0.6% lower, respectively. It comes as U.S. crude oil jumped 2.5% on Monday to more than $81 a barrel, the highest since 2014. Analysts say increasing vaccination rates are driving up demand for fuel across the country. Sarah Walton, New York.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
It is Free Talk Live. You can bring up anything you want and take control of the airwaves here. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. We just learned that Australia has some pretty restrictive defamation laws, and I just sort of openly speculated that if Australia is anything like its neighbor New Zealand, and a lot of times regionally located places kind of have similar legislation. Not always, but a lot of times they do. I said, well, if Australia is anything like New Zealand, there's probably a restriction on books and movies and music and video games because New Zealand has restrictions in that way. And
I knew they did, actually, but I just now thought about it when you mentioned video games, because the South Park video game, when it released in Australia, they had to censor out something. And they did it with little pictures of koalas. I don't remember what it was they had to censor out.
Picture of Mohammed. Don't they show a picture of Mohammed in South Park?
They did in one episode, but they've never re-aired the episode since.
Oh, yeah.
And absolutely nothing happened as a result of it, right?
Really?
Yeah, no one got upset, no one got bombed or anything like that.
Oh,
When they tried
good.
to do it again, Comedy Central told them no. But no, it wasn't that. It was in one of their video games. I wish I could remember what it may have been the zombie Nazi fetuses. It's South Park, right?
Sure.
And I don't remember. But they had to censor out something in order to get it released in Australia, and they chose to censor it out with pictures of koalas.
So I do want to, by the way, tell you about Freedom's Phoenix. It's a liberty-oriented news aggregation site. If you want the newest and freshest stories and perspectives on current events from those who value liberty, freedomsphoenix.com has it. Their daily dispatch is there for you, and it's the best way to stay up to date on science, technology, historical findings, liberty news, government overspending, and the rise of the police state. It's freedoms with an S, phoenix.com. That's freedomsphoenix.com. So we're looking here at... I wanted to see if I was right about my speculation that Australia was very similar to New Zealand, and it appears to be. Now, which one is worse, I can't say, but there is a Australian classification board, and it was created, I believe, looks like 1970, according to Wikipedia. And they absolutely have banned certain films, books, and video games from sale in Australia because they were, quote, refused classification by the Australian Classification Board. Those materials are generally refused classification because of so-called explicit, violent, or sexual content. Although the Australian Classification Board guidelines state that, quote, adults should be able to read, hear, and see what they want, unquote, many books are apparently banned or given a restricted classification simply because they may offend certain segments of the population. Under particularly frequent attack are books containing erotica, those concerning illegal drugs, and those discussing end-of-life issues, particularly those discussing or condoning assisted suicide. For example, in December of 2006, a voluntary euthanasia book called the Peaceful Pill Handbook was classified by the OFLC as X18+ and approved for publication. A month later, on appeal from Australian Attorney General Philip Ruddock and the Right to Life New South Wales, the book's classification was reviewed by the Literature Classification Board and then re-rated as refused classification. So they initially had approved it, X-rated, 18+ only. And
for a book that was just about assisted suicide.
Correct. And then subsequently overturned their own ruling and refused
these
it.
people are called the right to life people, but they want to force people who don't want to be alive to be alive.
That's
It's
correct.
Stupid.
Yeah.
And in Colombia, you can just, get the doctors to give you euthanasia.
Isn't that
if
one of the
you're
few
dying.
places on the planet where that's legal?
Yeah, there's a lady that this Sunday, she's a devout Catholic and mother, and she's only 51, and she's going to have, what's the word? Euthanasia? Have euthanasia.
I mean, if
Get
a person wants to
euthanized.
die, let them die.
Yeah, because she has a
Absolutely.
disease that, like, she'll lose all motor functions, and she would rather die than do that to her family and stuff and have to live like that.
There's a lot of people who have those circumstances in their lives, and governments force them to stay alive. It's sick.
That is sick.
But just, here's the point. Like, Australia is not a free speech place. You cannot have quote-unquote defamation. You can't even use an apostrophe incorrectly on a Facebook post, as we learned tonight. But also, if you want to publish a thing that is controversial or too controversial in certain ways, too erotic or too violent, then or just too controversial, they're just not going to allow it. And then it will become a crime to possess that, according to the article.
A crime to possess it, not a crime to sell it?
Well, I presume it would be a crime to... let's see here. Okay, so the refused classification definition here, according to the article about the Australian Classification Board at Wikipedia. So RC stands for material that is
refused
classification. While being in most cases legal to possess, it is considered offensive to the standards of morality, decency, and propriety.
Who cares?
Generally accepted by a, quote, reasonable adult.
Well, who cares what the people who, think it's reasonable to shut down an entire country and, ruin everybody's lives? Who cares what they think is moral?
To the extent that it should not be classified, classification is mandatory, and films that are refused classification are legally banned for sale, hire, or public exhibition, carrying a maximum fine of 275,000 Australian dollars or 10 years in prison if an individual or organization is found to be in breach of this. So you can apparently maybe possess it, but if you show it to somebody publicly, then you're going to prison. However, it is legal to possess RC films and games for people over 18, except in Western Australia and certain parts of the Northern Territory, unless they contain illegal content such as child pornography. The content is very high in impact.
So why parts of Western Australia can you not have it? Because governments are arbitrary, I guess.
Different rules there. So then they go into a more detailed list of things that are not allowed, gratuitous, exploitative, or offensive descriptions of violence, cruelty or real violence, sexual violence.
So they probably don't even watch horror movies in Australia. I can imagine too many of those. I mean, they're all about gratuitous violence.
Yeah, like Saw.
Right. What's that called?
Saw wouldn't
porn?
make it.
What do they call it? Like gore porn or something like that? Gorn? Is that a thing?
Yeah.
That's what I thought it was called.
Yeah, I guess there was some controversy also over Grand Theft Auto 5.
I'm not surprised.
In Australia as well, although I'm not seeing it on the list of banned video games. Maybe they did like South Park did and had to tone it down in some way to allow it to be.
How would you even watch Saw if it was, censored?
If it was restricted, yeah.
I can't imagine it got approved. And I mean, there are way worse movies out there than Saw.
Saw is,
I mean, that's
so scary
tame
to me.
compared to modern horror movie standards.
Oh my goodness, then I must be like absolutely, there'd be no way I could watch
Saw
something
scary?
worse. I've never seen a Saw. I've had it described to me, and I will never watch it. I went and tried to get me and Ian a scary movie to watch since I thought it was our anniversary, but I forgot it's the 14th, not the 10th. And I was looking through the horror things, and I was just like, I can't do this, and I got us a funny movie.
If you want something that's scary but isn't gory, the 1992 Candyman would be a good choice.
Yeah, I'm just looking through the list here of the government bans on various different video games. So Leisure Suit Larry, Magna Cum Laude, was banned back in 2004. Postal 2, which I have played.
I've never played it.
Postal is it's an interesting first-person shooter where
you just go postal.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
It is designed to be as like offensive as it can possibly be, like the people that you're shooting and the sort of the weapons that you're using, and it's a pretty entertaining game. They ended up making a really bad movie out of it that actually was also fairly entertaining called Postal.
Okay.
So check that out if you get the chance. I don't know if they continued that series or not, but some of these games were completely legal to release, here in the United States, where we do still have some semblance of freedom of speech, but they don't have that in Australia. It is a prison state. It truly is, and it always has been. So
we don't even have an oversight board that rates video games and movies and stuff. All of that stuff is done, by the entities themselves.
That's true. Yeah, the government in the U.S. did threaten the video game industry in the 1990s into creating said board. But ultimately, it is quote-unquote voluntary. More coming up. It's Free Talk Live.
This is Michael Dean from the Freedom Fiends. I've run websites since 1996 and have used over a dozen web hosts in that time. AgristHosting.com is the only one that hasn't broken my heart. Agrist Hosting's uptime and service is stellar, and their DDoS mitigation is the best I've seen. That's important because if you tell the truth in this world, you'll ruffle feathers. And some people will try dirty tricks to silence your voice. No matter what the haters hit us with, Agrist Hosting keeps our websites online. If you have a mission-critical commercial presence or a world-changing activism site, you cannot tolerate any skullduggery. So go with agristhosting.com. Have a WordPress or blog site, but you're not satisfied with performance or uptime? Or just want raw hosting? Want to pay with Bitcoin? Agrist Hosting specializes in high-performance hosting with personalized service. Go to agristhosting.com and click on the button that says Get Hosted. That's agristhosting.com.
I'm a little obsessed with My Magic Mud. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, the founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I didn't even know my teeth were coffee stained. A week's worth of use convinced me, and now I use it every 3 or 4 days. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, and I think it cleans better, too. My Magic Mud's available at most local health food stores, Sprouts, Natural Grocers, CVS, Walmart's Natural Beauty Aisle, but I can get it for you for 20% off with coupon code FTL20 at mymagicmud.com. FTL20 mymagicmud.com.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
We have some good news. The indictments against Ross Ulbricht in the District of Maryland were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they can never be refiled. This is especially good because those indictments contain the only charge ever made that Ross engaged in murder for hire. This was a serious allegation that Ross Ulbricht denies. It was never prosecuted or ruled on by a jury, but was trumpeted by the federal government and the media as if it were proven fact. The Maryland court held these indictments for almost 5 years, poisoning Ross's case and leaving him under a cloud of unproven allegations. allegations. As explained in Ross's appeal to the Supreme Court, the fact that the judge used these allegations to give Ross a draconian sentence of double life without parole violated his Sixth Amendment right to a jury trial. Judges are required to issue sentences based on convictions decided by a jury, not unproven allegations never even charged at trial. Although this is a positive development, the dropped indictment will not set Ross free. Now, a presidential pardon is Ross's only hope of freedom. Sign the petition at freeross.org. freeross.org.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live. Moments remain here. If you want to join us, you can. The number 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. By the way, you can join us online over at freetalklive.com. If you haven't noticed, I did blow up the old website a few days ago, and I haven't made an official. I mentioned it once on the air, but I haven't made an official email announcement about the change yet, just because I've had a lot to do, and one of those things has been getting the new website online, which is a WordPress-based site. It's something I've been wanting to do for at least several years and just kept putting it off, and because the old site was working until it wasn't anymore, and it recently stopped working due to SoundCloud, our audio host, changing some of its API parameters. And in order to fix our freetalklive.com, the site it was 2 weeks ago or a week ago, in order to fix that, it would likely cost tens of thousands of dollars to hire a Drupal programmer who knows their stuff to get in there and change it. It's probably a relatively quick change.
Yeah, but then SoundCloud would change their API again.
Yeah. And who knows what else? And the site had been around for a decade in its previous form, and so it was kind of stale. It had been that way for a long time, so it's probably a good idea to just change things up a bit. And so that has happened. Not everything has been migrated over. I don't know when or if or how much of it ultimately will be. I haven't made all those decisions yet. It was just something pretty critical was broken, and that was the ability to download the archives. Like the most important thing that a website for a radio show should have was broken. And it was broken for like a week before I was finally decided, all right, this is it. I'm just going to destroy this old site. And
it takes time to explore options like seeking out a Drupal programmer, all that stuff.
And in the midst of all this, as you mentioned last week, our tech guru, the man who has run things behind the scenes, Michael Hampton, passed away. Yeah. So our systems administrator died. Now, we knew it was coming, but that doesn't make it any easier necessarily. And
we knew it was coming, but we didn't know it was coming this quickly. The last I heard, he was expecting 6 months.
Yeah, that's why I was honestly really shocked.
But, and then you find out that, oh, crap, turns out not all the keys were turned over to the people who they should have been turned over to. And so we're kind of digging out from that circumstance as best we can. So rest in peace to Michael, and to those of you who are having trouble downloading archives from freetalklive.com. Now that has been solved. There's now a handy little widget right over on the right-hand side of the screen. When you go there, if you're on mobile, you'll have to scroll down a little bit. I haven't made it super easy for the mobile people yet.
Or just click the little arrows and choose View Desktop Type. That's what I usually do.
Or use the menu and go to MP3 archives, and that'll take you right to our SoundCloud. But if you use the little widget, then you don't have to log into SoundCloud. This is something I discovered. Somebody sent a complaint saying, I don't want to log into SoundCloud. I want to create an account. And I get that. So I found a widget that just makes it so you can just click and download. So it's super easy if you use that widget on the front page at freetalklive.com. So if you're on mobile, just scroll down past the first article, and then you'll see the widget there. And of course, the easiest way to get our archives is to subscribe via a podcast client. That is something I would recommend to everybody. Is just try out one of these different podcast clients. I don't know what the best ones are; they're always changing. But find one that you like, and then subscribe to our RSS feed, our podcast.
Is that at rss.freetalklive.com?
Actually, it's at feeds.freetalklive.com. And that's also linked from the front page of the site on the widgets side. So everything should be pretty obvious to somebody that takes a quick look at the new site. It's not cluttered like the old site was. No banners anymore, so go and check it out. freetalklive.com. Oh, and one other thing. This Saturday, Liberty in Our Lifetime is happening. It's going to be the real-life event sold out, but the online tickets are still available. This is an event exploring projects happening now around the world that are looking to achieve a lofty goal of securing freedom in our lifetime. Speakers are from Crypto Valley, Prospera, the Seasteading Institute, and more. I've even heard a rumor that Mark Edge is going to be attending the event. Now, I don't know if
he caught a flight earlier.
Okay. Yeah, I heard that rumor, but I don't know if he's going to be
supposed to talk to him at about 6 o'clock. He was like, no, take off at 6:30. I was like, oh, okay.
I'm so jealous that he gets to, if he's going, that he gets to go to Switzerland.
Yeah, but I wouldn't want to take a vaccine.
I wouldn't want to take a vaccine or really be in the EU. It kind of scares me, but if those things didn't exist, I would love to go to Switzerland.
Good point. LifetimeLiberty.com is where you can go to get your digital tickets now. The event is happening October 16th. That's this Saturday. So LifetimeLiberty.com for the Liberty in Our Lifetime event, hosted by the Free Private Cities Foundation. Bonnie, you wanted to talk tonight about inflation. You've had yet another example given to you by somebody who knows, somebody in business that has been seeing the cost of things going up. What's been going on?
Yeah, and I've been asked that anytime I talk about the store, I call it Mighty Moose Mart on Route 101.
In Keene.
New Hampshire. Mm-hmm. So at the Mighty Moose Mart on Route 101 in Keene, New Hampshire, they order things from Coke, and many of the typical things you would think of, like flagship items from Coke, are just completely out of order, out of stock. Or I said out of order, but out of stock. You can't order them. Like we couldn't get Diet Sprite, or it's actually Sprite Zero, which is like the best soda. We couldn't get that, so we had to get like Pina Colada, Fanta. Just like you have to get random things because the normal things are out of stock. You can't get them. And my boss, who orders things, said every week prices for everything he's ordering basically are going up every single week. So it'll be up from the week before. And that's inflation. That's just scary.
That is absolutely
it's inflation and a huge supply chain problem.
Yeah, and that's something that's been floating out there as a news story I've been wanting to talk about. Maybe we can get it tomorrow. But these shipping containers that are apparently sitting off the coastline, not just California, but Georgia and elsewhere, New York City, the huge amount of shipping containers just sitting there because there's not enough staff, there's not enough people to actually move
the product.
The
reason they're giving?
You know, that's part of it, right?
True.
Like, I mean, look at
there's no staff
hiring.
anywhere.
Right. So there's huge problems out there in the supply chain, and actually CNN was acknowledging what you're talking about, Bonnie, and what you're seeing isn't quote unquote inflation, but it is one of the symptoms of inflation. So when inflation happens, it's an increase in the money supply. That's the actual definition of inflation. But the news media constantly calls increasing prices inflation. You could put the word price in front of it, and then that would be more accurate. But it was a CNN story today, which I don't have in front of me, talking exactly about what you're saying, where they're warning people to get used to, at least for the foreseeable future, the quote-unquote new normal, that get used to the idea of certain favorites not being available anymore, like certain flavors of ice cream and certain sodas. So like the big sellers are still there. Like Coca-Cola, that's still on the shelves, right?
Sure.
But you said Diet Sprite not available.
It's still like a flagship. Like, it's not orange Fanta.
But Diet Sprite isn't a flagship.
Sprite Zero is really a flagship. Sprite, sure.
Yeah.
I love Sprite Zero.
Diet
so maybe
Sprite, not a flagship. I obviously Diet is a popular thing in the United States, but...
Well, that's just the one I remember the example of, but they were telling me all the normal things are hard to find. Like, there was multiple things that they bought random flavors of. Like, we got unsweet peak tea instead of, like, usually it's like mint or sweet tea. I was like, whoa, I've never seen us get this before, just because the regular kind we get was out of stock. I've seen us have regular sweet tea that was Peaks or whatever that brand is, and mint or something like that, but never unsweet, and we had to order that. There was other things too. And another thing that's interesting, Cisco, they deliver food to lots of places.
Yeah, major distributor of restaurant food.
They told us that instead of every week, they have to come every other week.
Oh, wow.
Deliveries cut in half. Wow.
That's amazing.
Because they
don't have as many drivers, I bet you.
Well, they said that our store doesn't warrant them coming every week anymore.
Figures.
They
you
spend
guys are
hundreds
small
of dollars.
Orders.
Well, still.
Yeah.
Yeah. It used to be once a week. Now it's every other week.
Wow. Aria, you had an experience recently in a hotel where 3 of the staff members were the only staff were 3 people that were on
There were
duty.
3 total people who, as far as I can tell, were employed by that hotel.
Like one maid?
One of them, they all were, front desk attendants, but one of them probably doubled as a maid.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if it's night, the actual housekeepers aren't there. Like, you'll have to go in and do something yourself if you're a front desk person. But
and you know this because you worked at hotels.
Yeah, like you wouldn't have an actual housekeeper there past, because
they work at 10 a.m. or whatever, right?
Yeah, like 10 to something.
Well, it varies by the hotel. Like the casino hotels, they always have a housekeeping staff on duty.
Yeah, I guess like big ones.
This one had none, and the staff that worked there also lived there. So, because they had to be there from 10 o'clock in the morning until 2 o'clock at night. And after that, there was just a sign up that said, sorry, there's no one here. Someone will be at the front desk at 7.
Wow. So they were literally asleep. The staff wasn't even available.
No way to check in or get anything done if you needed the staff after 2 p.m. Because there's no one to work.
What if some lunatic shows up drunk in the hotel and just starts destroying things?
They can't get in.
Wow.
Doors are locked.
All right, more coming up tomorrow. We'll see you then. freetalklive.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. chat.lrn.fm.
This is the Liberty Radio Network, broadcasting the latest liberty-oriented audio content 24 hours a day at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in San Francisco, I'm Ira Spitzer. An Afghan interpreter who helped rescue then-Senator Joe Biden in Afghanistan in 2008 has escaped from the country. There are still tens of thousands of Afghans looking to leave Afghanistan after working with the U.S. in some capacity over the past 2 decades.